Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to a complete Flutter app building tutorial. Here you will learn how to build an e-commerce app for food delivery, and this app would be both for iOS and Android. And this app would also come with a complete backend. And why build this app? Because you want to master Flutter framework, because you want to master Dart programming language and backend framework, and you also want to get a job. Well, after doing this course, you'll get much better or master Flutter framework and Dart programming language. If you're new to Flutter, or if you're coming from another background or another programming language, or if you are a fresh college graduate, this is the right place for you, because this would be a complete app. And if you're looking for a job, right after finishing this tutorial, you will have something heavy to write on your CV. Here we'll cover some major features. Well, first we'll learn how to show products based on category. Then you will learn how to build shopping carts, place your order, track order. And after that, you'll also learn how to build user profile and pages like sign in and sign up pages. And we'll also see how to build user address location from Google Map. And you can also build zone-based order for users. And the whole app would keep track of user authentication. Some other major features will cover Firebase notification, and we'll see how to do payment and payment SDK like PayPal. And then from the backend, you'll also learn how to upload new products and see order details and update order, and as well as you'll also see user profile on the backend. Well, in tutorial part 1, we'll have 12 hours, and in 12 hours, we'll cover a lot of useful ideas. First, we'll start off by building 4 complex UI screens, and for building those screens, we will be using stack and positioned widget as well as different slivers. We'll cover sliver app burst and sliver box to adapter. And one of the complex UI would be animated page view, where we'll see how to scale up, scale down, and animate the position. And right after that, we will learn about our app architecture, which would be very useful further down the road when you are going to build a new app. And here we'll cover API client repository and controllers, and we'll also learn what are they and how to build them, and we'll see their connection with each other. And after learning this concept, we'll see how to load them in the dependencies, and we make sure that our dependencies would be loaded when our app starts. And then we'll go ahead and start working with building models, classes, with the JSON map and a list. And I know that this is a very scary concept for Flutter beginners, so here we'll take it slowly and cover things in detail step by step. And once we are equipped with these ideas, then we'll go ahead and build our first product controller, cart controller, and we'll learn how to process the related data. And throughout this first part, we'll also cover about responsive layout. So that also means that when we run our app on iOS or Android, different devices, they would look exactly the same, but at the same time they will have proportional size. So right after this tutorial part 1, you'll definitely get better at Flutter and Dart programming language. Well, in part 2, we'll have 12 hours, and by 12 hours you will finish 8 complex UI screen, and after this you'll really become a hero in Flutter front-end development. And over here you'll learn how to build complex models, classes, and working with JSON map and list. Another major feature would be working with Google Map and how to interact with Google Map and save user data. And then you'll learn how to build location, user, and auth controllers and how to process the related data. So we'll learn and we'll focus on how to pick up user location based on user tab. And then you'll learn how to keep track of user orders and show the user related notification from Firebase. And you will also learn how to set up PayPal payment using PayPal SDK, and all of them would be also covered in the backend for user management. Another major feature would be zone-based user location and service. So by the end of part 2, you will really master Dart programming language. And in tutorial part 3, we'll have 3 hours, and here we'll take care of some of the platform specific issues like notification for both Android and iOS, and we'll also see how to turn this mobile app into web app. And this is where the Flutter shines, okay? Because Flutter, once you write code in one platform, pretty much you can run it everywhere. So you just need to know how to build a responsive app. And at the end, we'll see how to publish this app in the App Store. Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Well, in this tutorial, we'll see how to work with our Google Map. Well, previously we have done this map so far. And here you can save address to the backend, as well as you can pick address over here. And here we also did whether we are in the zone or not, and we have worked on this special button. Well, right now in this part, first we'll focus on how to click over here and type in or search address. Okay, so that's what we want to do first. All right, now if we are going to do this one, and if you have been following with me, you know that for this one we need to come to our dot file, which is called pick address map over here. Okay, all right, so this is the place where we want to trigger this search button. Okay, and over here this should be the perfect place, this one. Okay, all right, so let me collapse in rest of the code so that we know what's going on. Okay, and we do also have this one over here. Okay, yeah, so this is the place where we want to trigger our button. And over here you see that we have a container which is height 50, and this row. So row is showing this icon and this text, which is this one, the one we get dynamically. Okay, all right, so what we want to do right after this, actually we want to add another icon. So that icon would be search icon. So right here we'll add an icon, and let's say we first define a sized box, because we want to keep a bit of distance with our text, whatever the text is there. And here we would do width and dimensions dot, say width, we'll use a little bit, say 10. Okay, and now we'll have icon over here. Now for icon we would use icons dot search, or let's see, ARCH. Do we have search icon? Yes, we do. So this is the icon, and right here we'll use size, say 25. This is the default size actually, and color. Now here we would use app colors dot main. I think we need to, okay, this type over here. Okay, right, so here we would do yellow color. Okay, now let's save it and see how it looks like. Okay, so this is the search icon that we have. Okay, all right, so now what do we want to do? We want to be able to click on this bar and pop up a new page, and from there would be typing in our address that we want to search for. Okay, now once again, as I said that, so this is the widget, positioned widget. Okay, so this is responsible for showing and selecting address. Okay, so from here we want to work with. So here we do have, we see that we have this container. So actually this container is this whole widget, right? Our whole background over here, right? So whole bar. So we want to be able to click on this anywhere. Okay, so for this one, actually we'll wrap it around. Let's see. So we'll wrap it around a widget, and the widget name would be Inkwell. Okay, so Inkwell, this one. Okay, now over here we'll have on tap event. So this is the place where we want to tap and go ahead. So let's see. Okay, let's save it. Now we'll click over here and it says that it tapped. Okay, so over here we want to be able to click and go to a new page. Now for that one, actually we need to go ahead and create a new widget. Okay, now this widget would belong to solely this pick map address class. So what I will do, I will come over here, and this address over here, I'll create a new folder and I'll call it widget or widgets. And this widget just would be for this address pages or address screens. So we'll have a dedicated widget over here, and here we'll call it search location page.dart. Okay, yeah, like that. Search location dialog actually. Okay, all right, so that's the first thing we want to do, because what we are going to do, once we click on this button, it will take us to a new pop-up page on the top of it, more like an overlay. Okay, so that's what we want to do. So here we'll create a stateless class and we'll call it location dialog. Okay, all right, let's import the necessary dependencies. Okay, cool. Now the container is here. At the top, actually, we want to define a text editor first, because whatever pops up, we want to be able to click and type. So what we'll do, we'll create a text editor over here, text editing controller, and we'll just have one controller, so we'll call it controller, and here we'll get the object from it, text editing, and save it in the controller variable. Okay, all right, that's one thing. And what else we want with this, you have to know that once we click on this button, a pop-up window would show up, and that window should be able to access Google Map. So over here we need to pass Google Map controller from here. Okay, so we need to pass that. So for that one, we want to receive it here, and here we'll call it declare a variable Google Map controller, and map controller, we'll call it map controller. Okay, and we'll add it in the constructor of this class, and it would be a required one. Okay, great. And as we want to make it pop up, so we'll use over here inside it child as material widget. Okay, so with this material widget, we'll be able to make it like a pop-up widget. Okay, all right, now within this we can define the shape. So here we'll do rounded rectangle border. I think that would work with us. Now here we'll define border radius, and we'll do border radius dot circular. And now here we'll use dimensions. Dimensions dot radius. Okay, so here we'd go ahead with this one, and we'd use very little radius for this. Maybe 20 is better, so we'd get 10. Okay, so that's one thing. And right after this, actually we'll use a child inside of it. Let's see if we can use a child. No, we can't actually. Child should be outside of this. So here child. Now inside child we'll have sized box. Okay, and for sized box we need to define width. So let's go ahead and do that. Width, here we do dimensions. Let's see, can we get a screen width? Okay, just like this. So same as screen width, but of course we'll give it padding and height. So padding on the left and right side and everywhere, so it would work with us pretty well. And yeah, and now over here, let's see, we can give it a child for test purpose, and here we do say container and child again, and here we do text Google map search. Okay, so that's what we want to have right now. I mean, we have, and all we need to do, of course, this is still a dummy example. So we need to call it from here and see whether it works or not, okay? So we'll call it from here, and we would call it using a fat arrow function, this one, because one line of code, and here we would use GetX widget, which is called get.dialog, this one, okay? Now you see it takes a widget. Now inside this, we can call this one location dialog. So here we'll call it location dialog, this one, okay? All right, now it does require a map object. Okay, let's see, where is our map object? So this one, this is the map object we are trying to send, and we should make sure that our map is created over here. Previously, once it created, you need to save it to it. Once you save it, then you can pass to it, otherwise it would be null. So this is the time we unlock it. I think we did it in previous tutorial. Now here, this object, this is the one that we want to pass. Okay, all right. Now let's see, come back to our location search dialog, and it looks like we don't have any error, and let's save it. We'll see if it works or not. Okay, so let's click on this one. Okay, and we do see that we have a bit of problem over here. Map controller has not been initialized. Let's restart our app and see the problem. Okay, so we'd come over here, address over here. Okay, now let's see, everything is working well. Now here, okay, so that's because we just sometimes for state change you have to restart your whole app, even you have to delete sometimes. Okay, so that means that our search box overlay is working. Okay, so if you click it, it goes away. If you click it outside. Okay, cool. Well, next, actually, we need to install some plugins, because those plugins will help us to for autocomplete as well as get location from Google Map. For this purpose, we'll come to our pubspec file, and let's see where are dependencies. So here are our dependencies. So here we are going to install these 3 plugins. The first one would help us to do autofilling as you type in, autofilling in the dialog box, and these 2 are related to Flutter Google Place service, where you want to search for location. So for these 2 purposes, we use these 2 plugins. After that, make sure you do this one, and don't forget to have the correct version, otherwise you might get error. Okay, right, so I think it's running and it'll be done very soon. So yeah, I think it's done. So let's get over here and we'll close this one. We don't need this anymore. Now, one thing we want to do first, we want to do a bit of style with this one, because right now it looks pretty ugly. So for this purpose here, we'll apply a bit of padding to it, and let's do padding. We do all edge insets, all, we do it everywhere, and we would get it from dimensions. Dimensions dot. Do we have padding? We should have padding. Let's see. No, it looks like we don't have padding. But anyway, for this one, we'll use 10. Okay, so yeah, now it looks better. It looks like there's a map behind it, right? Yeah, okay. And another location we want to enable, another style we want to enable, this is called alignment. Alignment dot top center. Okay. All right. So now as you try to type in, there will be a lot more information, and don't worry about that one. Okay. And we need to also work on the text box, but for now I would disable it. Once we are almost done, then I will enable it. Otherwise it may be a bit confusing that why it is so small. Okay, so now here we want to replace this section. Instead of container, here as a child we want to use a Typeahead field, the plugin that we just installed, and part of it there is a class or constructor actually, Typeahead field. This is one we want to get. Okay, and within it we will wrap a lot of styles and things like that. So it does require a bit of callbacks. It wants you to initialize and maybe a lot of other. Let's go ahead and see. Now these two would be related to server callback, would talk to server based using this two. And what else? Item builder, but for once again they would be coming soon. All right, and what else we want with this? That's pretty good. And now here we want to use a text field configuration, this one, because that would be dealing with our controller. So here we do text field configuration, this one. Okay, and yes, we are good. Now here we want to have controller. Now controller, the one we had, and here we'll use input text input action, this one. And the text input action, let's see. So here we are going to do, instead of text, we would be searching. Okay, so it would help you to change the mode of this mode, I think they call it. I think it should be action. Okay, great. What else? Autofocus, true. Next, text capitalization. Let's see this one. Yeah, text capitalization. Words, so we want to capitalize the words. And there's another configuration we can use that's called keyboard type. This one, text input type. And here we can change it to search, I think street, let's see, yes, street address. Okay, now the problem with this one, as we are going to use Typeahead field, we must work on this three first, otherwise you get error, as you see. So that means we can't even compile it. So with this, next we need to go ahead and work on this three fields. Okay, well, now this one gets us error, so we'll start to work with this one first. Now suggestion callbacks. So as you can understand from its name that it gives you suggestions as you start to type in over here. Okay, so as we type, it gives us suggestions. Okay, all right. How does it give us suggestion? Of course, it talks back to the server. Okay, so of course Typeahead has no idea about your server and things like that. So you have to go ahead and realize it. But once again, this section, as you start to type in, it would show you suggestions. Suggestion doesn't come automatically, it comes from the server. Okay, which server? Google server. So we need to work on Google server. So for this reason, first we need to come to our location controller over here, and we need to create a new method over here. So that method would be calling from here. Let me explain to you what will happen. So as you start to type in, there would be a function. This function would get triggered. Of course, the function would locate over here. So this function would try to search location, but as we know in our app architecture, over here it would talk to the repo, location repo, like as we have here, right? So we'd go to location repo, and in the location repo as well as over here, there would be a new function. So that location repo would talk to the server. Okay, so as we type in, we need to send some keyword, because first you will type in keyword over here. That keyword, our plugin would take that keyword and try to send it to the server using our location controller and location repo. Okay, and then get the response back. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. Now for this purpose, what do we need to do? We need to come to this app constants. First we need to declare an endpoint. Okay, so here we'll declare an endpoint. We would do static const string search location URI. Now here we'll have API v1, and it would belong to config class, and here we'd call it place API autocomplete. Okay, all right. But of course, for the backend, we don't have this endpoint yet, so we'll create it very soon. Okay, now after having this one done, we can go to location repo and create the endpoint. The endpoint name would be search location, and it would send a text or keyword to the server. As I said, that as you try to click and type in, so it would grab the text and send it to the server. And here we do return await, and we would call API client dot I think that should be a get request actually, because we are not posting anything to the server, we're just giving it a keyword. It takes the keyword and then it would search and give us response. So that is a get request, not a post request. With post request, in fact, you save things in the server, but here we are not going to save anything yet. So here we do let's see, app constants, but of course we don't want the base URL. We would call search location URI, this one, and we do have an error, put async modifier. Okay, all right, and with this we want to send a text to it, so search text. Now so this is the one would carry the value of this text. Okay, all right, so here we would do text. Okay, so this is the string that would be sent to the server, and that string would have the value you type in. Okay, all right, now over here we want to return a response, definitely a future response. Okay, let's see, search location. Okay, great. So now we'd go to our location controller. At the bottom, we'll create a new method. Now here, once again, the method name would be also search controller. Search location. So as you type in the text, first as you type in over here, let's see where we were here. So as you type in, this plugin and automatically get the typed text or the one you type. Okay, and then in this function we'll send it to here. Okay, so this function would be called from here. So as we call, we'll send the text. Okay, so here we'll get it. Now here we need to pass build context as well, build context, and this has to do with the Typeahead of the plugin. So as we call it from there, we'll pass this context, and we'll also pass a string. Now the string would be text. Of course, only this text will send it to the server. It will stay in our app. Okay, because of this context, our app would be alive during this search, which I mean our dialog box would be alive and interactive. If you don't pass, definitely you'll get error. You could do nothing. Okay, anyway, so over here first we'll check if the text is empty or not. Okay, because if it is empty, we won't send any response back to the server. So here first we'll create a response object. If text is not empty, response, this one, and create a declare a variable, and then we'll call our location repo. So here we'll have location repo dot search location, this one, and we are passing this text. Now we need to add async modifier. Okay, great. Now we are going to let's see what's happening. We don't need braces here. Now here we'll check the response. So here we do response dot status code. If status code is 200, and a response dot body. Now Google Map, as you try to work with Google Map API, it sends you a status keyword in the body of the response. So we are grabbing that one, and if everything goes okay with Google Map, so Google Map sends status equal okay, all right, which we'll see very soon. This time definitely first we'll work with our postman, and then we'll come back to app. But anyway, let's see what's happening. Okay, typo here. All right, so else we do have some problem. Now here we need to declare some new variables because this part is quite complex, because as you try to type in, you talk to the Google Map. Google Map would send you a lot of suggestions based on your typing, and we need to save that suggestions in a list immediately. So for that reason, we need to go ahead and declare variables at the. So here we'll go down at the bottom. Let's see over here. Okay, right below it, we do a commenting, save the Google Map suggestions for address. Okay, so we'll declare a new variable over here. This is the variable. Now it takes a list, as you can see over here, and now list takes a prediction type. Now it might not automatically import for you the path for this package, so you need to manually type in. Okay, so that's what you want to do. So manually type in. So package Google Maps web services source places. Okay, now the error should be gone. Once again, so this is quite important if you really want to dive how Google works. So this is an object that inside this package, the package we just installed, and we are taking that object, and in the list we want to put this kind of object type objects or things or variables. Okay, all right, so anyway, so here is the variable that would actually save our predictions, the one Google predicts based on your search. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and go down and try to use it. Now this is the place where we want to go ahead. Now here first prediction, let's see this one, we will to initialize it empty array. Now we have to do it because every time you try to search in, you have to remove the previous data. All right, okay. Now here we do response dot body, and here once again this is coming from Google Maps, so predictions. So if the search is successful, in the body you will have status code, as well as you will also have body like that. Okay, now we'll loop through it. Here we do for each, and each of them will take as prediction, and let's see, so we'll just return right after it. We do have an error. Well, the error doesn't really matter because it's cranky, sometimes it will just go away, and we'll save everything in the prediction list, this one. Okay, and here we do add, and over here we would do prediction, because whatever we get from Google server, so that would be as JSON. Now from JSON we'll convert it to object. So here we do from JSON, and here we'll pass prediction. let's see. And the error is still persisting. Function expressions, am I doing wrong? Oops, I'm missing a bracket over here actually. Yeah. Okay, great. Now what actually happens over here, let me show you in Postman, then it would make more sense. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you first how it works on Postman. Okay, so here is my Postman, and here I have this endpoint. Okay, but please use your own server, not my server, because I changed my server and it may create problem with your own local host where you are developing. Okay, so what I would want you just to go ahead and use your own server. Okay, not definitely my server. Anyway, so this is the endpoint, and here I'm using search text. Now this search text is the text that we created over here. Well, over here actually. So this is the one we want to send, and this would include a text. Okay, now this text is over here, this one. Well, of course it could be anything. Okay, so you hit on this button, definitely this is a get request. Okay, now you see here we do have prediction, and now prediction is a list, right? So it has a lot of information, and at the end you get status equal okay, and that's what we have done over here in our location controller. Okay, so it has to be status 200 as well as status equal okay. Of course this is status code. Anyway, so here of course you can change your place. We'll do a new search like the place where I'm from actually. So here I'll do Bangladesh. So here we'll see that it gives me a lot of information. Once again, predictions, and here. All right. Okay, so that means that my server is working because first it is talking to the server, and then server side talks to the Google, and then it gets me response back to the server, and now I'm getting it back. Okay, now once again come back to this predictions. Now predictions has a list of information, right? So a list of information is a map in a map. So that's what we are doing. We are taking everything inside it, and we are using a for loop to go through it, and we convert them from JSON to prediction object, and then we save it in this list, the list that we created. Okay, all right, hopefully it makes sense. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the code of server side. Well, for this endpoint, here is our endpoint. So in api.php file, you'll have an endpoint called place API autocomplete, and then it would point to the config controller, this one, and then here we have a method which is called place API controller. Now this endpoint should be in your Laravel backend, and if it is not there, just go ahead and type in an endpoint with a get request, and the endpoint name is place API autocomplete. Now this would be same as the one we have in our const folder right here. Okay, so API place autocomplete, and this is under API v1 config. So this is config and under API v1. Okay, all right, so this is the biggest group. It encapsulates every other group, but anyway, so this is the endpoint you should have, and this controller, config controller, by this time we all know it, and it refers a method. So we'll go and see the method. Now this is the method. I think it's not in your backend, it shouldn't be there, it's added later. So just to go ahead and place it right below this get zone. Okay, right below this get zone method. Okay, now some of you, if you are following along, this method should not be in your backend, and you shouldn't worry about it. Okay, just skip that part, skip this configuration part, just go ahead and do this method over here. Okay, all right, so place a new method right before this end slash. Okay, now all it does is it takes the request object, So it takes the request object. Okay, now as you see from postman, we have verified that we are sending this object, so it would be in our request object. Okay, so let's take a look over here. So we take everything, okay, and from request object, and especially look for this one. Okay, of course this is validation. Okay, so we are making a validation and we say that it has to be there, and we see if we have any error with this or not, with this helpers. Okay, and from previous tutorial we know what it is. Now here is the core part. So here it talks to the Google server, so it sends the search text, this object, using this request object, and at the same time we send our key. Once again, don't try to use my key, because in future I will change the key. So if you go ahead and copy this key, definitely it will not work. So place your own key. All right, so here we are calling http.get. Now this is a get request from Laravel, and it talks to this Google server. So this is the URL, and then we add a request object using this dot operator. Then we add our key using this dot operator, and then the actual key. So as you do it, don't forget to put this single quotes correctly. So pretty much for every what is this, it's more like a parameter, right? So key parameter, and now of course this is a keyword, so don't forget to put the slash correctly. Okay, sorry, single quotes. And we simply return JSON for this, and as we talk back from the server, this is the response we get. Okay, all right, now back to our Flutter app. So we were here. Okay, so this is the place where we want to call this function. Okay, now of course it does return something, right? So the type of things it returns, we need to return here as well. So what do you want to return? You want to return this one, right? So whether it's empty or whether it's filled, whatever is that, you want to return that one. So here we'll just simply return future, and here we'd use list and a list of predictions. Okay, so that's what we are returning, because we are returning this one, right? So that's prediction. Now here, right after this one, we'll just simply do return. Let's see. Yes, right. So here, return prediction list. Okay. All right. Now the error should be gone. So that's perfect. Well, now here is one catch that we want to do, like this one. So what if the response is not 200? But what we are going to do now would be using throughout our app later. So we want to do it first and build a basic. So a lot of time we just check the response. So if the response is not correct, if it is not 200, actually you want to tell the user, not just print a message on the console, because of course for the end user, the printing on the console wouldn't work because they don't have access to the console, right? Anyway, so for this reason, we'll come to our file over here, data, and inside API here we'll create a new class, and we'll call it API checker dart. Okay, so here simply we'll have a static method, and this method would do the checking for our API. It's like telling what error we are getting so that user knows it better. So here we do class API checker, and we'll use a static method because we don't need any object for this. We want to access just the same method everywhere, so we'll create it using a static method, and here we'll do check API. All right, now here we want to pass the response object, response. Now what response object we want to pass? Actually this is the response. Okay, this is the object we want to pass. If it's not 200, if it's 200, we'll fall back to this one. If it's not 200, so we'll pass a different type of the same response object, and then we'll see what is the response. Okay, anyway, so now let's get over here. We'd import GetX at the top, because this response is coming from GetX, I mean the response object. Okay, now the error is gone. Now here we could do a check. If response dot status code equal 401. Okay, all right, so it means that user didn't log in. Okay, so the user doesn't have this authorization to work with this. So this is the API checker we would mostly use when the validation fails with the user, like user should have logged in but they didn't. So here, that's what we are going to do. So here, if things go wrong, I mean 401 means you don't have authorization, which means that you didn't log in. Okay, so here we'll ask the user to go to sign in page. Okay, so here we do route helper, okay, and here we call get sign in page. Okay, so this is where you want to go. All right, else here we want to show custom message to the custom sniper, this one. So this is what we want to show our user, and here we'll take it from response object, the actual message from the server, the status text. Well, it's more about GetX though. All right, we are saying that it's not going to be null. Okay, so this API checker has this static method, which is a check API. We would call it especially where we need to check whether the user has logged in or not. Okay, so here this would most likely fail if the user didn't log in. Okay, so that's what we are saying it here. So here we would call API checker, check API, and we send the response. Okay, so if the user didn't log in and try to do this operation, definitely that should not be 200. Okay, in that case user will get this message. Otherwise it so here actually we are first checking if it is 400, which means user didn't log in. Okay, let's go to the sign in page. Okay, and if there are other type of error, so user would see it from here. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. And of course we can simulate this error a little later, it doesn't matter. So let me make it clear once again. So here, if it is 200, well, definitely everything is good. If it's not 200, we send it to the API checker. Now over here, API checker would check if the user logged in or not, because this is 400, it means forbidden. Most of the time that means user didn't log in, or authorization problem. Okay, if it is authorization problem, that means let's go ahead and sign in again and see. If it's another type of error, we'll see it from here. Okay, so this is what we built before. Hopefully you remember that. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's what we get. Anyway, so now with this we are complete. Our search location method is complete, our API checker is complete. Now this is one cool thing we have done. We'll use it in many other places. Okay, yeah, if we don't get 200, we'll just use that one. We'll just say, okay, go ahead and check with this, because this will tell you what error. Okay, at the same time, if we need to log in, it'll redirect us to login page. Okay, cool. Now we need to come to our search dialog over here. So over here we want to call the search location method. So just simply here we do get.find, and here we call location controller location controller. Okay, and then we'd call search location. Now it's being cranky because we didn't import GetX at the top, so just import all of it. Import get. All right. Okay. Now we can access the method. Okay. Search location, as you can see. Now it needs a context and a text, but the text will send as this pattern object, this one. Okay. All right, and put semicolon at the end. Okay, now we still have an error. That's because one is feature type, another is returning null, or it could return null. So that's why here we need to await. So we do return await. Okay, and here we need async. Okay, great. And let's see if we turn this off. Can we go ahead and compile? No, it still gives an error. So before we go ahead and do anything like this, we have to work with this item builder. Now for item builder, it's pretty straightforward. Why I say that? Because whatever we save in this list, actually, so that would be this type of object, prediction type, right? So all we need to do, we need to grab this prediction object and work with that. So for this one, let's come back over here. Now you do have to understand one thing though. Now over here, search location returns us a bunch of prediction object, right? Because as we see, it returns prediction list, okay? At the same time, we also mentioned that this method should return. So it returns things, right? It returns and store where? Returns and store in a prediction object. And this object, actually, you can grab it inside this item builder. Okay, so here you can just simply go ahead and write prediction suggestion. Okay, so this is the suggestion that we get from Google. Let's see. I think we need to import. Didn't we import it? Actually, we did. Prediction. Let's see. Do we need to import any other classes? And let's change this one first. Instead of giving this context, we give it original context. Okay, well, we need to import the library. I thought we did. Now the library should be here. We can just simply copy the path like this one, the one we did at the top. So let's come over here, put this one at the top right now. Yes, and the error should be gone. Yeah, the error is gone, but we do have a new error right now. Okay, cool. But anyway, the error is solved at least. Now here we want to return, say return something. We want to return first. Let's return a row because we want to put things icon name and a location next to each other. So that's why we are doing row. Now here we would do icons.search icon, or maybe location icon actually would be better. Location. Okay, this one. And then we want to use expanded widget to take the rest of the space. Expanded. Okay, let me cut this one. I'm missing the property called children. Okay, right. Now expanded over here. I'll put a child inside it. Now this child would take a text. Okay. Now, where is this text coming from? But for now, we can just do it hard-coded. For example, new location. Okay. All right. So for now, we'll simply have this one, and with this, we'll be able to go ahead and run it at least, okay? And we'll see what's going on, because this is the first time we're going to run after all this work. Okay, now we'll come over here, your address. Okay, everything looks okay. Now here, So let's see what we see over here. Make sure that we are doing the right thing. So add address, actually we don't need. API client we don't need now. Pick address, the one we need. And this is the place where we called location dialog. Okay, all right, cool. So now let's see, let's start to type in. Okay, all right, and we do see that we might have a bit of problem missing plugins for what I would do, I would just simply go ahead and restart it one more time and we'll see what's going on. Okay, now that error is happening because I'm missing here the actual text input. Okay, so that's the problem. I didn't do that. Here we need to do input decoration. I believe this is the problem, and here we'll have a hint. Now here we'll say search location. I don't think we need capital letter. Search location. Let's see, let me start the app. Anyway, now here we'll have border and border radius. Dot circular. Would use border like 10 and okay, we can't use directly this one. We have to use outline border actually because we are in input text. Outline input border. Now this would work. We would do border radius and border radius dot circular dot 10. Border side. And let's style it. Border style dot, we can get border style actually, style dot none. So my computer is being laggy at this moment. Let me stop this app actually. Okay, none. And here we'll have width called 0. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and run it and see if the error still persists. I just restarted my app after doing this input decoration over here, and it seems that it's working because this is the one that was missing. As you can see that there is no error as well, and definitely if you try to type in over here like Shanghai, then as you see that it gets you information, and this information we see on our console, and we also see that it returns in predictions. Okay, now we are here in location controller. Okay, and so everything should be here inside it. Okay, all right. I'm not sure where this is. Oh yeah, this is actually coming from, I guess, from our API client. I think we do have a message that for get data. Yeah, this one. So this is where it's coming from because I'm printing the body. Okay, all right. So that means that it is working. Okay. But now here, of course, you write Shanghai, you are supposed to see a lot of suggestions, but you don't see that. Now, the reason is because over here, this part we have hard-coded so far, okay? So all we need to do, we need to grab it from this suggestion object, okay? Once again, so over here, search location, this one returns and put in returns and put those addresses in this prediction, but of course this prediction is inside Google plugin, so you don't have a direct access, but once it returns you can grab it from there. So just pass inside this item builder. Okay, all right, now right now this is hard coded, so we'll remove this one, we don't need this. So here we do suggestions, this one, and as you see here we do have this description object, so we can take that one. Okay, and we say that it's not going to be null. Okay, all right, and well, for now we'll just stick to this, and now let's see what happens. One more time, let's try to type in Shanghai. Okay, so we do see that like this, we don't have any changes yet, and we are also, let's see, supposed to say this icon though, which we didn't see yet. Okay, anyway, so let's continue. Well, the reason it didn't work, basically actually it's coming from here, so let's remove it. And now if you type in, you'll see addresses like this. If you do Shanghai, you'll see, okay, a lot of places like this, and why most probably for New York, Kenya, for Africa, things like that. Okay, Africa, so it means that it's already working. Perfect. Now we need to do a bit of design over here. So over here let's do a bit of design, and we want to wrap. Before we do that, actually remove this one, we don't need any string type for this. Okay, the type is given to it automatically. And now here we'll wrap it around padding widget, and over here would use dimensions dot so with 10. Okay, and we might need to import it. Okay, you can't use const in this case, so you'll get an error. Okay, perfect. Now it looks, I think, much better. Okay, now over here we need to work on this as well, so we can put a style for this one. Okay, before that we just set max lines 1, and then over here say overflow if we have a really long address, so we want to do text overflow. Okay, text overflow dot ellipsis, this one. And after that actually we can do style. Okay, now for styling we can use theme object, theme dot off. So here we'll have context, and then text theme. Let's see, text theme, this one, dot headline. So we do headline 2, and I think dot copy width. Okay, copy width. Here we'd assign the color to it. And once again, theme dot off context. Okay, and text theme, and then we'll do some body text 2, and then text 1 would be better, and then whatever the color it has, so that one we want to use. And it should, let's see, what's the error here? Okay, all right. Okay, well, it looks like it got way too bigger, but we can fix the size. If you saved it, it would be like this, but of course we see the dots because we did this ellipsis, right? And we are also doing max line 1. Okay, now anyway, so inside this we'll use our font size and the dimensions dot font 20. Okay, looks like, yeah, okay, even we can do maybe 18, but 18 might be too small for us. Let's see what we have here. font size, we do have 16. Okay, let's reload it. Yeah, I think 16 is good. We can be happy with 16. So this section is working already, as you see. If you click on this, so it shows up with the earlier address, but if you save it, if you do a research, then it shows you with new results. So this place is perfectly working. Okay, all right. Now the problem with this is not a problem. The next thing we need to do, we need to click on this and be able to save it. Okay, so this is not, now we are not able to do that, so this part we need to do. And before we go ahead, let's style over here a little bit, and this would be coming from here. I think here we are also missing a bit of styling. Right after this, one is input decoration and another is outline input decoration. So right after it, here we do hint style like this one. Okay, so here we do hint style. Okay, and for this one, actually we can copy what we had early. Let's see if we can copy from here. Okay, so here we'll copy this one, hint style, and let's see if we can put it there. Okay, now definitely the color over here, the color should be different, right? So here we can change the color. So color to disabled color. Okay, we want the same color exactly as that one. Now let's save it. Yeah, this is much better. And if we go ahead with 20, a little bit bigger text for search location. Yeah, but it looks like 16 was perfect. Yeah, with this we do have a bit of gap at the down. I think that makes it better. Okay, all right. So that's with this outline input border, and actually for this one input decoration, I think right after it, for the text controller itself, we can put a little bit of styling. Let's see. Should we? I think we are good actually. If you need, you guys can do more styling later on your own. So far it's working. Okay, so now here actually we want to focus on this one. So you click on this, you'd be able to select it, but now even now you can't select anything, so we want to be able to select. Okay, now that selection definitely works with this one, as you can see. Okay, so we need to work on this one. So as we click it, we want to select it and send it back to the server. Okay, now for this one we need to set up some of the things. First, let's go ahead and set up an endpoint. Okay, now this setup endpoint we would call over here places detail URI. Okay, so whatever you click for that one will have a detail place. Okay, so let's declare one. We'll do string here. We'll do place details URI. Okay, now here we just copy this one first directly. Okay, now here we'll call place API details. Place API details. Okay, so this is the endpoint. Okay, now here in locationRepo we need to set up another get request. So right after it here, we'll call it setLocation. Okay, and what do you want to send here? You want to send a piece of text. So with this called string, and we can call it place ID. And over here, let's see, definitely will also return just like the old one, this one. So we'll return everything back to this Typeahead field. So here we do API, let's see, API client dot get data, this one. Now here we'll just simply call our endpoint. We'll call appconst, of course, not base URL. It's place detail. Oops, hold on. Place detail URI. Now over here we want to send a place ID. Place ID. Now here we'll have place ID, the one we are having as a parameter at the top, and then we just simply return. Here we are doing await, so we can do async over here. Okay, now let's come to our postman and let's take a look. So now as you see, we do have an ID. Okay, so if this is a place, and this place will have an ID and some related information about it. Now this is another place. That place will have ID. Now what happens, let me tell you. So as you type in over here, like you see these places, they all, so here I do have, say for example, 6 or 5 places, and the same if I do over here on postman, I'll have the similar places, as you can see. All right, but well, they don't have to be similar all the time, but what I'm trying to say, whatever you see, these places, they all arranged in order in our JSON file that we get back from server. Now in the prediction list, which is a list of maps, they have a, for each place we'll have a description, place ID, description, place ID, description, place ID. Okay, so a lot more other information, so it depends what you want to use. But for now, we want to use description and place ID. Why? Because as you see here, we have the description, right? But we don't have latitude and longitude. So what we'll do, we'll send the place ID to Google server because each ID is unique. And for that place ID, Google server will send us more information about that place. Okay, it's latitude, longitude, and a lot of other information that we need. Okay, so that's why we want to send place ID. Hopefully it makes sense, right? Now, where is this place ID is coming from? It's coming within this prediction, okay? So as we can grab description, we can grab, if we want, we can grab this one. We can also grab this one. So it would be just like a piece of cake for us, okay? Hopefully it makes sense. All right, now we'll go back. So here we have this setLocation, okay? All right, so it would be string type. Okay, but once again here we want to return a response, future response. Okay, all right. Oh, place ID, yeah, all right. So that would be a GET request. Okay, now we are going to send it to the server. Well, now one thing we could do, we could go ahead and try this in our postman first. Okay, now do remember with this we are getting a list of predictions with place and the descriptions and ID. So what I will do, I'll just simply copy one of this ID, any ID, Now here I will change the endpoint, and here I will do details, okay, just like this. And instead of this one over here, actually I want to use place ID, because this is the text we want to send. And now here I'll send this one, okay. All right, now let's see what we get. Well, undefined property. Okay, something is wrong with my API key. I fixed it, and let's try it one more time. So as you see, so here we do have more information about this place, and we do get latitude, longitude, so based on this one, okay. So that's why we need to be able to send this one to the Google server, and then server will send us more information about that place, okay. And if we get everything right, status code would be 200. Okay, all right. And so we understand it, right? Now let's take a look at our backend code. Now over here, backend code would be like this. So they're pretty similar actually. The earlier one we had is a place API autocomplete. Here our backend code is place API details, and we grab the place ID, okay, using a validator, and then we check if we have any errors. And then we have this classic HTTP GET method, okay. And within this we have this place ID text, and here we need to put our key. So I will put the key. All right, anyway, and yeah, so and after that it will return us a JSON response, okay. So that's how it works. So these two methods are pretty similar. They all use HTTP GET method in the Laravel server, okay. All right, now being said that, now this time we need to go ahead and create our method in the location controller over here. So here we'll create a new method, and we'll call it setLocation, and from this file it will get 3 parameters, and the first one would be string, which is place ID, and then the second one is again string, but that would be address, but this address would be just like the description that we have seen before. Okay, I think it's close to, let's type in Dhaka, and I think we should have output. Okay, so this address is simply actually this description. This is what we will send. Okay, all right, and then we'll also send our Google map. So here we do Google map controller, and we'll call it map controller. Okay, all right. Now this time, once we select it, the map would be shown over here on the background, and this would be at the top in this bar. The one is hidden behind, okay. All right, so right over there. So that means we need to trigger loading. So it's loading equal true. Okay, that means our animation will start, then we'll update UI because animation is starting. Okay, now here we'll do places detail, let's see, places details response, and we'll call it detail, and I think it should be from the places.dart file, the plugin that we have installed. Okay, now here we'll simply go ahead and call our create a response object, and we'll simply call it response. And now here locationRepo dot set location. Now for this one we'll only send the place ID. Okay, all right, and let's see what it's going to have. I think we need to have await because that returns a future, so we need to have await, and our method should change over here with this await. All right, great. And right after that, whatever the response we get, we'll put it in places detail response, and they have a method just like prediction. We'll use that method anyway. So let's see. So here we'll just copy this one. I'll put it here. Dot from JSON. Okay, now the response body. So body. Sorry, this one's not dot body. Response. This one dot body, like that. Okay, so hopefully it makes sense. So everything we'll put over here. Now we do see that response. So everything would pretty much go, the body is the body. Everything would go inside dot body. Okay, right here. All right, and then we'll create a position object. Okay, well, now we have this detail object, and this detail object will have pretty much all the information about our place. Okay, so we can grab that. So that's what we'll try to do. Now this response body, it converts to a detail object. Now how it does, it all happens internally with this. If you want, you can go ahead and click on this and take a look at how it does, but it goes down deep down to a lot of places. But anyway, we'll continue here. Now remember last time in our tutorial part 3, I think we are using this position constructor to create object, and that one we put it pick position. So this time we will do the same thing, but of course, because this time detail object contains a lot of information about our places, so we'll take it from detail. Here we'll take the result object, and after that we'll take its geometry, and after that we'll take it, I think, location, yes, and then we'll take it lat, which means latitude. And most probably you might need to mention this one. Let's see. And over here we'll have what is it, latitude. Here we do latitude. Okay, well, let's see what's going on. Okay, we do have required argument latitude, but let me cut this one. Sure what I did wrong. Okay, then we don't need this section anymore. And over here, well, we do have a lot more. So let me close this in, and over here, whatever we get, we'll save it to pick position object. Okay. All right, and it is being cranked because we have a lot of other places we need to put in. Let's see. Now we'll copy this one and put it here, and here we do longitude, and instead of lat this time we'll get L and G. Okay, and it has some other required parameters. We need to use all of them. I think we also have a timestamp, so we'll use datetime.now. Okay, and here we also have accuracy. We use accuracy 1, altitude 1, and heading 1, speed 1, and speed accuracy 1. Let's see. So with this, the error has been gone. So now this is the pick position that we played before to get object and show object. Okay, so now this would become handy. We can use this one directly to access. I think with this, if you have this pick position, then you could access to this objects like over here. Okay, anyway, so now with this, that's one part of it done, and then we can also do pick place, pick place mark, this one, and we'll send it to place mark constructor, place mark this one. Yes, now here we do have named parameter, and we'll simply set the address. Now this address is once again, I said, coming from here. This would be the description. Okay, description, the one we get at the top. So pretty much like this. Okay, Anyway, that part is done, and then we are changing address. Let's say change address. If we do that, well, for now yet we are not changing. Let's set it to false. And after this, we need to also work with our camera position. Okay, actually for now, from here, we can go ahead and try to work on UI. And we'll see that we also need to be able to change our camera position. Now, at this moment here, our loading would be false once everything is done. And then you update the UI. Okay. Okay, so with this we are done pretty much, but we still need to work with the camera position, and most probably over here we need to put const modifiers. So with this it'll look better. Okay, now we would come over here. So now over here we'll call this method. Now for this one, simply we'll copy from here first. It would save us time. And instead of search location, we'll call it setLocation. Let me erase this one, setLocation. And here we are sending few arguments. The first one is place ID. Now we want to get it from suggestions dot place ID. Let's see, we do have a bit of error. Not sure why though. Okay, and for this one here, I think we need prediction object. Prediction. Now with this suggestion, let's see here, place ID. Yes. So with this one, you can get access to it. Now suggestions dot description. And we can send map controller. Okay, let me enlarge it. So with this, it looks like this. So now we are doing this one. Of course, we don't want to return like this. Okay, we don't need actually for returning. I think we don't need to return over here. Well, once the setting is done, it'll talk to the backend. And then over here, actually, we want to close our dialog box. Now, in general, get.back is used to go back from a dialog box to the earlier page. So this is our dialog box over here. Okay, all right. So now with this, let's restart everything and see how things are going. Okay, so we'll come over here anyway. Let's do our address. We'll come to this place. I'll start to type in. Well, say this is in India, so I'll select this one, and let's make sure things are good. Okay, yes, we can select it. So things get selected, right? Okay. And let's see where we are, and say select. I'm selecting my country. I would select Mirpur Road. Okay, all right. Now here this camera position is not changing, you see, so that's what I was talking earlier. So that's why we need to, before we update UI, actually right over here, we need to change our camera position. Okay, just like we did earlier, another part. Anyway, so here we do map controller. Let's see if we can do a conditional check. So now map controller, not this one, map controller, the one we are sending, this one. So map controller dot let's see, what do we have, is not, is null, or is null. Okay, then we do the negation, which means it's not null. Okay, if it's not null, then we would do this one, map controller over here we would animate camera, this one, with this camera update, we would call this one, second one, camera update. Yes, and it has another object, new camera position, this one. Okay, I'll fall back to a new line. Okay, now inside this one we'd create a camera position object, camera position. All right, now it takes latitude and longitude, so here we do let lang, lng. Okay, great. And then we'll grab our details object, which is this one we created earlier at the top, and from here we'll get result, we'll get geometry, and it would get location, and then we'll get a let from it, let for latitude. And then I think we need to have this one over here saying that it's not null, otherwise it gets error. Now the last one over here, detail dot result dot geometry dot location dot longitude. So with this the error's gone. Okay, and now let's see if we got a new position. Yes, you see now the camera changes, actually it did change. All right, but I think something is wrong with this position. Let's pick up this one. Okay, now it might be wrong with the code over here. I think it's a zooming problem. I'm not zooming in because it's too small, so let's do zoom 17. Okay, and one more time, let's see. Okay, now it's zooming in. All right, okay, here we go, my dear country. Anyway, so now it means our camera position is working. So after changing the map, the camera position should change as well. Okay, so with this we are pretty good, actually. So what we're doing over here, we are getting this one and showing it on the map. Now you can pick it over here. As you pick it, it is there. Definitely you can save it, right? Perfect. So now if you come over here, you see this is the address that you had early. Okay, this is the address that you choose. So let's see in a whole action. So we'll choose it like this. As we do that, the address changes. Well, it didn't. We were hoping that it would change the address. Now we need to take a look why this didn't change. But let's see over here. Yes, it does change it from there. Because this is a Nelcat, I think. This is the new address. Let's save it. And then we'll save it over here. Okay, and it added successfully. We go back and let's change it here. Okay, now we do see that it didn't change over here. We need to find out why. But this one is definitely working if we change it from here. Okay, so let's do pick address. Yeah, anyway, so next we'll see why this didn't change. We are supposed to see a change over here. All right, here we are. So last time we were doing this and we had a little problem. Now we'll fix that one first. Okay, now the problem was here. If you search a new address, say over here, I'm going to select the third one. Okay, that gets selected over here, but after that, if you move your map, you don't see that the new information has been updated over here. So that's the issue that we are going to solve. Okay, so as you move, you see that it doesn't get updated over here, but it should. Right now over here we have this one. Okay, so change address. Actually this is it causing problem. So all we need to do, we need to switch it on so that this position gets updated. Okay, so because here's a latitude, longitude, and if it does, then this place mark also gets updated. Okay, so now let's save it. But of course, this is inside our update position function. So just right here, turn it on, because right now it's off because it's false, right? The default value was false, so remember that. Okay, now you can go ahead and move. Hopefully it'll change. Well, if it didn't, then what do we need to do? Let's restart our app and we'll see that it should work. Now we'll come over here. Now we'll go somewhere here. Okay, well, default, yes, it does change as you hover over. Okay, and now after selecting, so I'll select this one first. So here we are, it changed over here. And if we move our map, let's see if it changes or not. Yes, it does. Okay, all right, so we'll save it. Of course, here after coming back, we don't see that the map over here has changed, but that this is the address that we selected at the end. Now, the why the map didn't change, that's a lot of work. We'll keep it like this. One reason is that we didn't update our address model. Okay, and we'll skip this part for now in this tutorial. But here you see this is the latest address that you have selected. Now, if you go back and open it up, so this was the address that you selected. You can click on this, you'll go back to the selected address. Now, once again, you can change a different place. So we did, it showed up over here. Okay, right, exactly, Dhaka New Market, right? Well, of course, we can change it a little bit and we'll see that the change reflected. Okay, so we are here somewhere, so we don't know the exact address is actually over here. So you save it, you see the shop name. Okay, fine. So that means it's working. Okay, great. Well, now it takes us to the most important part of payment. Hello everyone. So here we'll see how to integrate the payment, PayPal payment with our app. Now we'll go ahead and do that. But before that, I'm going to tell you, so in this section, I'll be quite fast and a lot of the code I'll copy and paste. I'm not going to explain everything because it might take a lot of time, because this is a lot of code. So I'll copy and paste, and some of the code is already regarding this payment is already here. So as I copy, you can also copy with me directly. This is my own website, so here I put everything. Luckily, this is the tutorial that I created a few months back. So yes, for that purpose, what you could do, you can just copy it from here, and I'll walk you through step by step. So don't worry about that one. By the way, so with this Flutter app, the one we are doing right now, every code is, all the code, the complete code is on Patreon. If you want to get early access, you can get it from Patreon. Okay. And regarding Patreon, we have three packages. So let's see which one is best for you. The last one, the third one is commercial license. So if you get the complete source code, you could use it for any purpose. Okay. Now, of course, Patreon code contains more functions than the one we already have in our YouTube video tutorial, because taking video is slow and a lot of things go wrong during taking videos. So a lot of the part in the video is less than the one in the Patreon code, which I'm trying to say Patreon has more functions. So if you want to get early access, not waiting for the video, then you can always go ahead and unlock it from Patreon. Because I will make YouTube videos, but it is a bit slow and I only do YouTube videos in my free time. Anyway, so for Flutter payment, we'll integrate PayPal with payment. Now, one thing about Flutter payment integration, you have to have a developer account. And for that one, I have a video. Now, this is the video that I have. I'll put the link below so you can go ahead and watch the video and how to get secret ID and client ID. You need to get them, like as you can see. So these are the two ID that we need from PayPal, and this video tells you step by step how to get that. Even in the same video over here, actually I have tested the same app, so everything should be pretty similar. Okay, all right, so this video tells you how to get the secret ID and client ID. Okay, and once you get those two IDs, go ahead and save it somewhere, and we will use that later. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you. All right, now back to this PayPal payment integration page. Okay, all right, so once you have that developer account and once you have saved those secret and client ID, then let's go ahead to the second part. Well, not exactly the second part. Actually, what we want to do over here, we want to install the payment SDK, so which comes from PayPal official site. Now, if you click on this link, we'll open it on a new tab. Okay, so we'll see that it takes us to a new page. And it tells us that create a new project, go to the project root folder, and run this command. Okay, if you run this command, it would be installed inside the project root folder, inside vendor directory, and then you will have a PayPal directory, and inside this all the code is related to PayPal. Now if you are following along with me, if you installed it locally, okay, like I have, so this is my app that I have installed locally. So in this stage, what you do, you would copy this command. Okay, make sure that your composer is alive. I mean, composer will download this one. So this is my, once again, this is my app's root directory. So over here I will run this one, but I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so this is the only command you need to run, and everything would be auto generated for you, and that's as simple as that one. Okay, now if you install it using this command, there is another way, but I like this one. Then you will go to the vendor folder, like as you see over here. Okay, now for vendor folder, we'll go to vendor folder, and over here we'll see that we have this PayPal. Okay, but we can also get inside it, and we see REST API. Okay, so there are a lot of things that should help you, like the lib library. If you want to know more about it, how it works, you can always go ahead and see the library. Okay, all right, anyway, so here we are. So once that is done, hopefully your SDK would be downloaded. So we are done with this page, so we'll close this. Anyway, so I also have I've shown it that how it would look like in your case if you downloaded it. Okay, all right, now here we need to have, because this PayPal SDK actually is a REST API. So what do we need to do? We need to create a route so that our app can access it. Okay, now for app accessing, we need to go to our web.php file. Now do remember, these routes are web routes, not exactly the routes for app. These routes, web routes, are all put in web.php file. Okay, all right, even though it says API, but it's not pure API because it still goes through web.php file. Okay, now all you need to do, you need to come to your web.php file. Now of course we know that that's inside the routes folder, right? If you see ls routes folder, here we have web.php file. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll open it up, or I'll cd to web.php. Sorry, we can only do vim. Yeah, so we see that I have this. So anyway, in your case, what you need to do, whatever editor you're using, I'm using right now, I'm using this Sublime editor. In this case, I'm not using VS Code for this purpose because I don't like the UI of VS Code. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and do VS Code. It doesn't matter. Now here inside this routes folder over here, you will see this web.php. Okay. Now in your case, most probably you just have this one. Most probably, if you have more than this, you can delete the rest of them. It doesn't matter. Okay. Then what do? You'd copy paste all this one. Okay. All this section from here, and you'll put it here, and which I already did that. Okay. So just go ahead and copy them and put it here and then save it. Okay. Now, when our app from Flutter App, we want to access SDK, we would access from here. Okay. So these are the routes. And definitely, as you can see, this should be the first route. Okay. So for this SDK, this is the home page route for the SDK itself. So this would be the route name. Okay. All right. And we have other routes for status. We would know the payment. It's not really payment status. It's more like what's happening during payment. Okay. Another one which also gets called, we'll see that later. And if it's successful, we get this one. If it's failed, we will call this one. All right. So with this, our payment route would be set. Now let's see the next step. Well, we'll skip that one. And here we see that I said inside this HTTP controllers folder, we need to create this two files, payment controller. Go ahead and create one, and PayPal payment controller. Okay. Now I already did that, and we said that inside this HTTP controller folder, right? So this is the HTTP controller folder. Right under this, we created payment controller and PayPal payment controller. So there's two files that we created. Okay. Yeah. A lot of you might not have this one, and don't worry, this is just extra file I created for some test. Okay, it has nothing to do with this video. Anyway, so here also you should skip this one most probably if you don't have. If you have it, because I don't remember whether it was part of this app, because I do some additional test. Okay, but definitely this should not be part of your app or web app, whatever app. So anyway, so go ahead and create a file, payment controller. Make sure the name is correct. Okay, and now it should look like this. Okay, now once again, this code is also given over here. Payment controller. Okay. Okay, so everything is here. So just go ahead and copy. Okay, and now we'll go back to our file over here. Now here we see payment controller, and we need to give it a request object, which would come from our web app through this API. I'm going to close this. Okay. All right. So over here we have this payment mobile. Okay. And so this relates to this one, and how it does. So here internally it calls a method payment. Okay, so this payment method is actually this one, but from your mobile app, from the app itself, the route name is this one. Okay. All right, so this method gets called. Now here we do a test, but this is more additional thing. I'm planning to use it later in the future, so it's not directly useful for now. Anyway, so in this information, in the request object, we'll have customer ID, which would come from Flutter App. Okay. All right. We'll also have order ID, and we'll put them in a session. If you don't know what is session is a temporary memory that is kept alive for certain app inside laravel. Okay, so for certain user, actually for certain user, we create a session. Once we create session, you can put things in the memory for that user. So in that case, for this customer ID, we have to we'll save some information in the memory only for this certain customer. Anyway, now of course there are a bit more other things that we'll see very soon about database tables and things like that. Okay, and we also try to find the user from our database. Okay, because this is the ID given from app, then we try to get it from our database. All right, okay, now for that customer, we also put the name in the session, so a lot of this information are saved here. Okay, we get order related information from our order table, but at this point you might not have this order table because the one you downloaded from GitHub. So we'll see how to create a database table. Okay, all right, and we create an array based on this information if they're there. Okay, then we hit this payment view. Okay, well, if things go wrong during this process, we return error. Okay, all right. Now, once again, I'm not going to go into very deep of Laravel because it'll take much longer time, because after all, this app is focused for Flutter, not for Laravel. Okay, anyway, but if you want me to create more Laravel backend app, I could do it. Anyway, so after coming here, we hit this view. Okay, view is what we see in front of Laravel app on the browser, right? So it's more like the part of MVC pattern, where is V for view. Okay, now we need to have this one. At the same time, if you come over here, you will see that it says that we have to create some folders. One of them, create some files. One of them was this one, we already did. The other one is this one, we didn't do yet. And we also said that inside the resources view folder, we need to create this payment view.blade.php. So go ahead and copy the name. All right, and then come inside resources views folder. Okay, this is the folder I'm talking, and here create a file payment view.blade.php, the one I just said. Now you can double click on it, and here we see HTML file actually. Okay, all right, now from here let me close all of this. Okay, so once we hit this return statement, because it's say, okay, go and find a view. Find what view? Find this view. So we find this view over here. Okay, all right, so this view has this information. All right, so it does load a lot of the code and a lot of CS file. So you can download those CS files from your GitHub link. Okay, so I've already updated that one. Go ahead and download them. So over here, you'll see that in GitHub link, you have admin folder. So that's the folder you need. Okay, that's the only folder that you should need right now. Anyway, so if you do that, after that, all you need to do, you need to drag that one. Let's see, drag that one inside actually here, public assets admin. Okay, so in public folder you will have one assets folder, and inside this drag this admin folder, whatever you downloaded. Okay, drag and put it inside this, and it should look like this. And inside this there are tons of other files, but we don't need to look at them. Those are some supporting files for this payment. Most of them are JS, mostly for Vue. Okay, all right, so not directly PayPal, but yeah, it makes your Vue better, and it does a lot of communication for security, this and that. Anyway, so go ahead and download that and put it inside this SS folder. So the folder should be admin folder. Okay. All right. And now it would look like this. Okay. Now how to get this file? But once again, the file for view itself, the file is here. So the complete file has been given here. Okay. The complete file has been given here. So once you create this payment view, this one, just copy paste this. Okay, and then you should be good to go. Now here I'm going to explain a little bit about this one. Okay, so now here the most important part is well, this one, like here we do have this order ID. Now as I said earlier, we put order ID in the session, so in the memory, so Laravel blade file can access them directly. Okay, just like this. Now this is a Laravel, I think they are ORM, which special kind of function. It's called find. If you want to find anything from the memory or database, you use find. All right. Okay. Anyway, so we are getting this information for this session ID. Okay. First we get the session ID, and then we get information from database, just like this. Okay. All right. So this is, we get from memory first, and then we get from database using that ID user information. Now here we also have this special line, so it gets some basic information about our business and things like that. Okay. All right. Now here we do have this status. Okay. Now what is this file? What is this config? And it's a variable, actually. It's a variable. Now previously we have seen that you already have this helpers class. Now the helpers class is over here, this one. Okay. All right. So inside this you need to have this certain file, which is called this one. Okay, if you don't have some others, don't worry for now. Okay, it has nothing to do with you yet, because I said that my Patreon code is more updated with more functions. So some of the functions are in the Patreon code, because in Patreon code I have already also done uploading profile image, editing profile, things like that. This is where it works. But anyway, for now, for payment, this is the place we want to focus. Okay. All right, so it gets some information from the database. Okay. Get some information from the database. Now it does find a table. Okay. It needs a table. So this is the business settings table, and we'll create the table. For me, I have already done that, and I'll show you for you guys how to create. So go ahead and find this helpers.php and take this code. Okay, and just put it there. So with this, in helpers, you will have this function which is called get.business. Now you can directly access it in your view. Okay, and we are doing a conditional check. All right, and if this passes, so here we come over here, we also generate a token. That this token is generated from Laravel itself, and at the same time, actually we hit this PayPal, this URL, okay, or this route actually. Okay, by the way, in your assets folder you should also have PNG for PayPal and image. Okay, so everything is there, the one you downloaded just now. Okay, so you hit this route and it will show you so it will hit this PayPal, and which would take us here, pay PayPal. Okay, now over here we see that we need a new controller, PayPal payment controller, and inside this we should have this method. Okay, but for now we didn't create this one, so over here I have the code for this one. If we go down a little bit, yes, so this is the code. Okay, so PayPal payment controller. Now first you need to go ahead and create a controller, this one right here. So PayPal payment controller. Okay, right after payment controller, inside this controllers folder. Okay, all right. And after that, just copy all this code from here. Okay, all this code, and then you should put inside this file. And over here we see that we have this method. Okay, pay with PayPal. All right. And we do have over here a configuration file, a function actually in the constructor itself. Now, this is the important part that I'm going to tell you. Sorry. So here we do see that it tries to get something called PayPal from config. And what is this thing? Okay, all right. So this one we need to know and build something right now. So this actually comes from your config folder. Now you should have a config folder like this, and inside this config folder you'll have a file. I mean, you don't have the file yet, you have to create it. So PayPal, so PayPal.php, so we'll get that one. So this is the file that it's actually referring. So here it's referring to a file. Get that file, and whatever is there, put in this variable. Okay, so this is the file. Now this is a file that directly returns an array, okay, or a map. Actually, it's more like a map because this is the ID, this is the key, this is the value. So in PHP you write map like this. It's a bit different from Dart map, because in Dart you write like this, say client ID and whatever. Okay, so instead of this kind of arrow in Dart you have this colon, but this is still a map. But anyway, we'll save that. So whatever here you see, just go ahead and type in very quickly in this file. This file should be inside config folder PayPal.php. Okay, now here this is quite interesting. As you see here, we have this PayPal client ID and PayPal secret. Okay, so this is the one that I told you at the beginning. You should go ahead from PayPal developer account, get them and save them. Okay, all right. Now wherever you saved it doesn't matter, but here we see that this config file wants to read things from env file. It refers to env file. We know that at the laravel, for laravel at the root folder we have env file. That's also more like configuration. Okay, so it tries to read some information from your env file. Okay, what it reads PayPal client ID, PayPal secret ID. Okay, so there's two. So that means that we have to come to our env file, as you see, and here, so client ID, whatever you copied, put it here. But of course you don't have this section, so go ahead and write PayPal client ID. Okay, all should be capital letter. Also write PayPal secret. Okay, and put whatever the secret and client ID you got from PayPal account. Okay, yes. Okay, so if you do that, when your app boots up, when there is a new request, especially when your app boots up actually, so this information Laravel would save and also send it to this file. Okay, and if it does, then your payment controller can access them. So that's how the secret ID is gotten. All right, and once we get that one, we send it to the PayPal context, because PayPal creates a context for the whole app. So PayPal has idea, okay, it was the secret information. So because this is used for authentication, we know that. Okay, all right, so it makes sense, and it's in the constructor, so which means when Laravel app becomes alive first time, it creates this constructor. Okay, and then you have this necessary information, it saves in the memory. Okay, yes, right after that, this is a very long function. Okay, all right, so here I'm not going to explain things, but all it does, talks with the database, gets the order, reference transaction ID for us. That's a random one. Okay, and it's set a payment method, and it'll take whatever the items you send from your app, Flutter app. So it'll take it here. Okay, and it will also try to get a lot of information and set them. And this is used for having some dots, having a dot after payment, and maybe most probably 20, or like for example 3.33. So this refers to 3 or 4 5 6, things like that. Okay, 3 4 or 6 7. Okay, so it has to have a certain format. If you don't have the format, you will get error. And it also sets the price. Now the order comes from database, and it creates a new format, save it in a variable, and it saves in this item variable over here. Okay, all right, and right after this here you need this helper's currency code, because PayPal needs to know what kind of currency you're going to use. Okay, now for this purpose we need to come to our helpers.php file, and here we do see we have a function. Of course you don't have it yet, so go ahead and create this. Okay, but of course it takes information from database, and we'll see the database very soon. Okay, so that's why actually I'm skipping writing code, just walking you through step by step. Anyway, so PayPal needs to know what kind of currency you are using for transaction. This is where you set it up. But if you want, you can actually manually type it in. It doesn't really matter. Most probably, I think you can also do things like that, USD. But I think you should read it from database. Anyway, okay. Well, and then it does something internally. Okay. By the way, the complete code, it's actually most of it, 95% is coming from PayPal itself. Let me show you where is this coming from. The actual code is actually coming from, okay, let's get back to this one. This file, oops, I don't want to get it like this. So let's open it in a new tab. So most of it actually is, I think, sample source code. Or PHP source documentation. Let's see if we can see it there. Okay, and simple code. Let's see. Okay, so if we come down here, definitely we'll see it somewhere. Okay, create a billing. So let's go ahead and see if this is, yeah, so a lot of the code is actually in their SDK, so you can go ahead and check them. So you can, what you could do, you can come over here and see which one is there actually. So the codes are all pretty much here. So not this file. I think it should be this one somewhere here. Okay, so one of the files is has this information. What information? The code you have just seen. All of these are coming from there. So some of the places I'm changing based on my needs. For example, order ID, because my table name is orders, or my variable name is orders. So just replacing some information with my information, but the basic one didn't change. Okay, yeah, so most of it is coming from there, especially this part is coming from there. I'm just changing things with my own information. Okay, all right. Oh, anyway, so what happens after this, if it successful, then it tries to create a new context. Oh, I forget to skip that. So it also calls this one PayPal status. Now this web app route we already set over here. Okay, so this is get payment. Okay, let's see. I think we already called that one PayPal status. oh, actually, what happens from view over here, so pay with PayPal, it gets called. Now pay with PayPal is, let me see this one. Yeah, this one actually. This is the one that we talked. And yes, after that, at certain point, this one gets called PayPal status. Now PayPal status is this one. Now here, get payment status. This function gets called, and this is right here actually. This one. Okay, so it tries to do a lot of thing and confirmation, but once again, this part is also coming from directly from their official side. Part of it was mine, but I'm trying to reduce the complexity. Okay, like this is the course section coming from their side, so go ahead and see their documentation to have a better understanding of how it works. But anyway, so over here, if things go wrong, if we can create this API, then we send it to the approval URL. Okay, and now this approval URL, actually most probably it refers to this PayPal success. Okay, all right, so let's come to this one. And then we put information in our database. Now this is our own code, which I wrote by myself. So you have to update your information, all right, to the database, and put the PayPal payment ID in the session, in the memory, so that we can use it later. Okay, and then we redirect to other pages. Okay, that would come from another source. Okay. And here, these are all pretty much if things go wrong. Okay, so take a look at this class on your own free time, this whole class PHP payment controller, or this file. Okay, so I'll skip this one right now. So we'll see the backend, the database tables. Okay, now here we need to create, if you just go ahead and put this code there, it's not going to work directly yet, because a lot of the information comes from database. Okay, but we didn't create database yet. We need to do that. One thing before I skip, let's see, I think I made a tiny change somewhere. Yes, so this one. Now here in the original code, it was a bit different. If we see this item, in the original code, the one you copy from here, it does refer to order customer F name, so first name, right? But here we change it to session F name. And how we did that, we did it actually from here first. You see here we put F name in the session. Okay, so this is the code you need to add in your payment controller file. Okay, this line, otherwise it will get an error. Okay, because before, in this file we need customer name, as you see here, set name function needs a name, a valid name. Okay, so but of course you can hard code it, and that means only one user would be able to use that. So you want to get it from database. Okay, all right, so this is the only place that I changed. Everything else stays the same. Okay, all right, so that's the backend code, but we also need to work with the 3 tables. Okay, now these 3 tables, how to go ahead and create them, I already listed out. So first table you would create for business settings. The table name is business settings. So in your PHP myadmin, go ahead and create a table, name it business settings, and give it these few fields. At the same time, remember their type. Okay, and definitely the first one is auto increment, so you need to do that. And the key value and things like that. Now this file actually is being referred here. Sorry, this table is being referred here. So as you see, we have worked with these two functions, right? Now here, business settings refers to a table for business settings. Okay, so this table is this one. All right. Okay. Now, of course, if you refer this table at the top, you need to import it. App models business settings. Okay, otherwise you will get error. Okay, now we need to take a look at this file, this model. Now model should be over here, and here I do see business model. Okay, so just go ahead and create a basic model. Nothing really is there, it's all empty, pretty much empty. Okay, but you need to have a model, business model, and if you have that one, this model would reflect the database table, this one. Okay, so go ahead and create it, and over here we get some information like key, as you see, and the name is for a name there should be a value, but this value is send it from our file over here. So as you see, business settings, the value is PayPal. Okay, so all it does, it comes here first and look into the database and see for the key if we have a value name PayPal is there or not. That's all. So that means after creating this table, we need to insert some values. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and see what values we should insert. So here is my business settings table. Okay, now here you see I have currency USD, which also read, I already showed you that we read it in our app, and here most probably we also need this one. Okay, all right, that this is just test purpose, this we don't need it yet, but if you can have key is country, the value is US, it doesn't matter, you can change it to anything from here, right? Any value doesn't really matter, but I'll stick to US for now. Okay, so it tries to look for this one. Okay, now what value you should have? Actually, not much. So the value name is PayPal. Okay, and here we have this status, client ID, secret ID. Now it's in JSON format. The idea is in future we would also want to be able to change this from database, from our backend. So that's why I'm putting it here. So for now, here you can also put whatever the key value you had from PayPal account. Just put for this client ID, and for secret ID you put your secret ID. Okay, and we are putting them in a JSON format. Okay, all right, so if you think it doesn't look bigger, let me see it. Can I enlarge it? Oh, it's the same. All right, anyway, so yeah, so here just you need to put some underscore. So let me enlarge it in an editor for your information. Let's see, let me put it somewhere so you know actually the exact format. Okay, so this is the exact format. So this is also a map, as you can see. Okay, it will have status 1, and most right now actually we just read this value in our app. We don't really read them because we are reading them from our env file, but in future we want to change our secret ID and things like that, so we can do it directly from backend. So that's why I've created this one. But for now, all the value we care, the status value, and it has to be 1. As you see over here, we just care about the status value. All right, but we get this one from database anyway, so I'm sorry. So I'll erase that, and yeah, to remember how to write your name, the field's name or the key's name. All right, anyway, I'll erase it. Okay, cool. So yes, so that's for PayPal. There should be some values. One of the values we read, that is status. Okay, yeah, so that's for business settings. Mostly for business settings we read two information, PayPal status and the currency, okay, USD. All right, so that's the first table. Now we need to create another table, and that's a pretty long table, and it has 25 fields. Go ahead and create a table, and name is orders. And in this orders table, for each order, we put related information, order amount, order status, what's going on. We would do a lot of things regarding this order. Like in future, we'll see if the order has been delivered or not and how to update it, whether it's being processed or not. A lot of information. So go ahead and create them and take care of the value over here. You see the type, okay? And the first one is auto increment, and some of them has default value, some of them they don't have, okay? Anyway, so go ahead and create this one, put this 25 fields, and if you do that, it'll look like this. Now we'd put the order, and after putting it, it'd look like this actually, okay? But for you, if you created it just now, it'd be pretty empty, okay? Pretty empty. And all of your fields should look like this. Okay, these are all the fields that it should look like this. So 25 fields that you created. Okay, great. Now this is the order table that actually we have been reading in our app. For example, if you come over here, you see that let me find it. Okay, here we do that. If we are successful, we read it from order table, some related information. Okay, if we fail, we also see that one. Okay, all right, and as well as we also read a lot of information for the order in our app over here. Okay, all right. Now, for some of you, the first time if you go ahead and run PayPal payment, you may encounter a lot of issues, but in that case, just go ahead and post it in our Facebook group. Okay. All right. So that's why we need order tables. Next, we need to create another table. It's order details. Okay. All right, now this part only talks about, we keep ID about food, order ID, food ID, things like that. Okay, all right, and because in one order you might have different food ID, so you also need to save that. Order ID would be same. Say for example, you have placed in one order 3 food, so order ID is the same, but the food ID is different because food ID is the ID of the product ID. So yeah, so here we'll see for each order we have a lot of records. If you order 5 food in one order, then we'll have 5 records with the same ID, same order ID. That's what we'll see. Okay, most probably you can skip the last field because it's just a test field, so we don't need that one. Okay, so go ahead and create the table name order details. Okay, and put the information, the one you just saw, and here we see that after creating that one, and if we put order, it would look like this. Here you see we have 2 order ID and they're same. Okay, yes, and but the food ID, they're different, right? Yeah, so with different records, but their order ID would be same, but the food ID is different, and we'll read them from our database and send it to the Flutter front end. Okay, all right, so these are the 3 tables that you need to create, and the tables field should look like this, which we already have seen. So it should look like this. Okay, great. Once you are done, the back end setup should be great. Now we'll go ahead and do front end setup, which means for Flutter App. Okay, Okay, for Flutter app itself, we also need some code, and luckily last time when I was doing that, I already put the code here as well. So I think we do have front-end code as well. Yeah, we do have front-end code. So from here, we'd be able to work with that. So now we'll come to our Flutter app. Now here inside this pages, go ahead and create a new folder called payment, and inside this payment folder, create a new file and you call it payment page dart. Okay. All right. Now for this one, we'll just go ahead and copy all of it. Okay. Okay, so definitely few things we need to do. Let's change the name to payment page instead of screen. Okay, and here that should be the same. Let's change them accordingly. Okay, all right, now we need to import some of the libraries. Yeah, the payment part is pretty long. I mean, the time actually. So that's why I decided part of it we'll do by copying. This way we'd get faster and we'd have less errors, because I know some of you trying to follow with me, you get a lot of error as you do it. Okay, and here we also need to import this file. Let's go ahead and for scaffold we need to import material library, and for app colors we need to import this one, and also the dimensions file. Okay, and now this is coming from a plugin. Everything else has been done. Okay, route helper. Okay, I think we also need to import get package. Okay, and the route helper one more time. So import all of them, and these are the few files that we need to create along the way, but we are done with most of the code, almost 70%. Now here, this one completer from .async. Okay, now Flutter web view. Now this is coming from a plugin, so we need to go ahead and install the plugin. Okay, for installing, let's come to our pubspec file, and here right after it we'll install Flutter web view Flutter. Okay, and let's wait for it. It should be done very soon. Okay, I guess it's done. Now let's see if we can import the necessary dependencies. Yes. Okay, yeah, most problems should be gone. Now for this one, okay, we'll just do screen width. And what else we have? Okay, there's few routes. Okay, so next, first we'll go ahead and create this order model. Well, for creating order model, we'll come to our model, let's see, folder, models folder, and here we'll create a model and we'll call it order model dart. Okay, now here we do have part of the code, and it's here at the bottom in this link. So I think some of you already know the link, and if you don't know, I'll put a link below so you can check it out. So all we do, we copy everything from here, and we'll just put it right there. Okay, now here, just like our table, which is order, the name, we created 25 fields over here. Okay, and here we do have dependency model, so we need to import it, address model, and everything else is gone. It does have some default values. You can change them based on your needs, and you should actually. These are some just default values. If you want to really take this app to the next level, you should. Okay, so with this we're done, and all we need to do here, import it. Okay, all right. Okay, and let's see. Yes. Okay, it's been imported. Now here we need to set up 2 routes, actually 3 routes. Route for this file as well, because we want to be able to access this file. Okay, all right, and for that one we'll come to our routes file, routes over here, and at the top we'll define actually 3 variables. First, for the payment page itself, here we do state const string payment. Here we do payment. Okay, all right, and we'll also have one for string if it's successful. So here we do order success. So of course we also need to Dart file or class for that one. Order success, successful. Okay, and static const string order. Here we do most probably, let's see, order. Okay, we'll have only one actually. This would do the both trick, so only this 2 would be fine. Okay, now here we'll set up routes function string get payment page. Okay, payment. All right, and here string get order success page. So we do order success. Okay, now we'll come at the bottom over here. We need to set up get page. So here we'll set up get page and the name as payment, and it'll have a page. Okay, and here we'll just I think we could do arrow function, no problem, because we won't have much. A lot of them actually could be arrow, like this one could be also arrow, so you get the idea. You can use any option. Now here we do payment page. This is the one. Okay, this is the one we want, and here actually we want to pass an order model, because here we see that at the top we have to, when we call this class, we have to pass a model, right? So that's what we want to do. So right here, so we'll break it and make a new line. Okay, great. So let's see. Anyway, so here we'll have order model. Okay, now inside this we want to pass arguments. Now one of them is user ID is required. Okay, and we will also add payment ID. Okay, now for that one here we just simply do ID and int.parse. Okay, get.parameters, this one, and inside this we'll just grab an ID, but we need to pass it. So we don't have any of this right now. Add a null checker. Okay, I think I put it in the wrong place. Should be here. Okay, now for user ID itself, you can also do the same. Int.parse. Okay, int.parse, and here get.parameters, and here we'd pass user. Okay, and Okay, so now with this, the error is gone. Okay, now because here we do see that we say ID and user ID, they would be initialized later, and others are all optional for now. So that's why we don't need to fill in them at least right now. But these two, yes, we need. Okay, and here we also tagged them as required. Okay, cool. Now this is the first payment route, and after that you need to set up another route for successful or fail. So here we would do order success. So here we need to create order successful page, but of course we don't have it yet. So let's keep it like this for now. Okay, order success page. We have to do it. Okay, all right. We'll come back to it very soon. Okay, now before that, actually we'll try to hit this payment page, and I think we've been coding for a long time or talking, so let's try to hit this route, this one. Okay, but of course it's not that easy. One second, payments does require a lot of coding, a lot of things. Anyway, so we also need to go back to our cart page, because from that cart page we'll see that if we can hit the route page, the payment route page. Okay, now here for now I'll just do this one, so the error is gone, but we have to come back to it, right? So here, let's see, cart page, this one right there. So here we will, let's see which app I'm using. Food delivery, yes, this one. Okay, cool. So here I think at the bottom we have this one. So here we check whether his user has logged in or not. If the user doesn't have any address, it takes us to address page. Okay, all right. If it's empty, then it takes us to address page. If it's not empty, then it takes us to get initial page. Okay, so this is the page where actually we want to do more logic. So this part is okay. So we are checking, because if say users place an order, so once he clicks on this button, so this thing happens, right? So first we make sure that user has logged in. If not, we take it to forward him to this sign-in page. Then we check if the user has address or not. If no address is empty, go ahead and fill in the address. Okay, otherwise we go back to home page. But of course this is not what we want to do, because if user had address, what is the next thing you want to do? You want to create an order, right? So from here we'll continue to do that. So let's see, I'll raise this like this, and here actually let's see if we can go to this payment page. Okay, this one. If we can go to this payment page, so if we are going to go there, we need to call it, right? So we are going to simulate the page loading first, so that actually we know what's going on. Well, to be able to do that, we need to come to our cart page over here, and from here we'll call. Okay, now remember, from here we'll call get payment route, which is this one. Well, you shouldn't have this two yet. I just put them because we want to do a test. Okay, so user ID and order ID. Well, we'll have a different order ID. I have this ID, you might not have, so don't worry if you don't have. I bet you don't have it yet. It doesn't matter. So over here we need to pass two parameters. We are passing here arguments, so we need to catch it over here as a parameter, right? So for this reason, here first we'll pass an ID, and then we'll pass another string. I think we can pass it as an integer. So here we'll call it user ID. Okay, now here payment. Right after payment, we'll grab the whatever in this ID, we'll put this ID variable. So we are taking this one from here and putting it in a new variable, and then we'll do user ID ID equal user ID. Okay, all right, now these are the two parameters that we talked about early that we are going to pass. So one is this one. Okay, so we can just simply change it to ID like that. Okay, so that's what we are sending, but of course this user ID, the field is inside the model itself that we have seen earlier, right? So this is, anyway, it should have been capital letter, but let's skip that. So yes, so now we need to find a way to call this route, call this page. Now definitely we are gonna have to call it from here, right? Just now we have seen this one. Okay, let me remove this. So this is get route of named. So we are passing an order ID. This is the dummy ID for testing, and this is the user ID. Okay, now user ID is we get because we logged in. So by the time you come to the payment page, definitely you are logged in, right? So you get the ID. So that's what we are taking. Now let's go ahead and run it. Yeah, so everything started. I think I have a warning. I'll fix that later. And here, let's see. Okay, so this is what we have now. So we already have our address over here. Okay, so we logged in because it will check whether we have address or not. Now I already added one thing in the cart, so now we have 2 items. Now once we click, I want this route to be activated, which eventually will. But before that, you need to make sure you have this 2 options in info.plist. This is for viewing Flutter webview. This is for iOS, and for Android, just simply internet access this one right after this manifest tag. Okay, all right, hopefully it makes sense. So if you don't have this, you'll get error. Even after this, you'll get error. All you need to do, come to the terminal, do Flutter clean, then get all the dependencies. Even before that, actually, you can delete your app, which I suggest, because Flutter WebView has a lot of cache inside or storage. So what you could do, you could just delete the whole app, then Flutter clean, then do the dependencies, and then reinstall. And this is the problem I encountered. Anyway, so here we are. So let's run it and see if we can hit this payment page. So here we are, and it says it's loading. I'm not sure that our web page would load, but that means that we are able to hit this page because we can see it. We can see how, like if you see at the top, payment page actually. So our header is payment, right? So this one. So that's what exactly we see. But now why it's not loading the page? The reason could be many. One of the reasons is because if you see over here, it tries to go to the database over here, the order table, and it wants user ID. Then there has to be a user ID, and as well as sorry, that's the order ID, as well as user ID. But I'm just giving it some dummy data, so that's why it's fading over here most probably. Okay, so this is the reason. But in real life, when you come over here up to this point, you will have your user ID and order ID. Okay, and we'll see how you will have it, because there are a lot more things to do. But this tells us that we do have a page that is trying to load, but because it couldn't hit this payment view, that's why we get this error. Now if we see our database, now here I do see that I have this user order ID, I have this ID, okay, and I have this user ID. Okay, now this is in orders table, but now here in our request object, do we have any order ID? Actually, we're not passing any order ID in our request object. So that's why. Let's see what we have here. Yes, we do see that we have order ID. Okay, so we need to do another thing for iOS, that web view is not loading. The reason is we need to add this dictionary in your info.plist for iOS device, because iOS device doesn't support that comes through something HTTP rather than HTTPS. Okay, so like for example, okay, make sure we have an address. Okay, and now we go over there. Now place an order. Okay, now we click on this one. Okay, so we'll see that here this is HTTP. So if you don't set up this one, you will definitely get error, and also you need this one as well. Okay, otherwise it will definitely get error, your web page wouldn't load. Okay, all right. So, and even if you do that, after that, make sure that you do Flutter clean and restart everything. By the way, so with saying that, we understand that, okay, our page is being loaded. And one of the ways to debug it is on browser. So I'll open this one on browser. Okay, now as you see, it also opens up in my browser. Once again, use your own URL, because by the time you're trying to use mine, it won't work, because my URL is temporary and I'll make a lot of changes, because otherwise I will get tons of server hit because everybody is trying my URL. So you do it locally. If you do it locally, just use HTTP and 1270.01, something like that, right? Anyway, so it means it's working. And one good suggestion, when you want to work with PayPal, you can also use this browser. A lot of time on the network tag, you'd get a lot of error. Okay, all right. And this operation could be annoying. I know it because I've done it many times. It's still very annoying. So another way of debugging is trying to DD. So you can put log on the server. Okay, for example, here I would do this one. I'll save it and I'll upload it to the server. After uploading it to the server, this will send me a log on the browser, because sometimes it's easy to debug on browser rather than on the app. Well, of course, if it's possible. In this case, it's possible because we are on web view. All right. Okay. So as you see, so here we do have this URI and things like that. And we can also see our session object. So here attributes, we do have some sessions. So token, customer ID, user ID, and a name, things like that. Okay. So it's very useful for debugging when you go ahead on the browser. So all you need to do, use DD, and whatever thing you want to output on the browser, you can just go ahead and is this one. Okay, all right. So yeah, I'll remove that. Okay, great. So don't forget to use this one, right? So it's quite important. Okay, great. So we can load the view, but of course this is not how you load a view, and that's not going to work. Well, before we go ahead and talk more about the view thing, let's take a look actually. So we didn't really talk about this payment page. So in this payment page, actually, we are loading a web view controller using a completer. Now, completer is more like async and await, but this is your custom async await. Why? Because web view controller doesn't really send you things like await and async things, so you have to do it on your own. Okay, all right. But it does tell you when a certain page has been finished loading or not loading. It tells you that one, but it doesn't work exactly the same as await and async. So you use a completer to make this await and async thing. Okay, so that's why we create an object of completer using this web view controller. Okay, and the object name is controller. Now when we load the page first time, we select the URL. So here we have this URL, and this is the endpoint that points to our server, and this is the place that we have talked before. So yeah, So mobile payment, and eventually it's called payment, and which also refers to slash. Okay, mobile payment here refers to /1, the first one. So that's what, or payment mobile actually, anyway. And this pubspec is basically for Android, because Android might not have a back button, and it helps you to get you a back button. And over here, everything else should be pretty straightforward. But one thing here, we are also passing user ID and order ID, okay? All right, so these are the things we are passing, but where are they coming from? Of course, we'll see it just now, even though we simulated them, but we'll see how they come here. Okay, so that's one thing. And let's see. Okay, so these are the basic setup for WebView. So we want to load everything if there is JavaScript, because WebView is basically based on JavaScript, and we say that we are going to load, don't restrict anything. And here is our initial URI, and we are trying to load a browser like Mozilla and things like that. So it's the basic settings. And then here we have, once we create WebView, and once that we get value for the WebView that's been created, so everything is saved and controlled using this controller. Okay, all right. And then when the WebView keeps loading, so you can do stop over here, you can print a log when it starts loading, as well as when it finishes loading. Okay, so these are the few places that we have some code, but these are some basic code. Okay, and of course, if the WebView, the loading has been done, we hide the loading view if the loading is still going on, so we show this one. Okay, all right. Now over here for this one, let's see, what is this? Now this is coming from this file. Let's see. Okay, it's from source animation. Okay, so this is a special animator, you can think like that, and we can pass it to circular progress indicator, okay, to make our web view loading much better. Okay, all right, so that's how it works. And over here we do have a redirect, but for now we are not calling them yet. We'll call them, and then I'll explain that what they do and what they don't do. Okay, so this is the basic idea about this payment page. Okay, so yeah, now we'll see what we are simulating over here, loading the web page and web view from here. Of course, you are not going to load it like this, because where do you get this thing? Okay, and where do you get this user ID? So we have no idea, but that was a dummy data. So now we'll see how to go ahead and do it. All right, now these things have to be this one, go to the payment page. Showing this one would come after you place an order, right? Not at the same time, not before. So what will happen? First you place the order, and then you'd show this one, right? So we want to place an order first. It means that in the database we want to place an order and order related information, and database will generate an order ID. That would be our ID. Okay, so first we have to place an order, or the order would be generated, order ID would be generated, and related information. Okay, so for this reason, first we need to create a controller, and we'll call it order controller. Okay, so here we are here and call it order controller. So you guys have to bear with me, because placing an order, it does take a lot of code. So here anyway, so here we'll create a class and we'll call it order controller, and it will extends GetX controller and implements GetX service. Okay, right. Now we want it to stay in the memory for a long time, as well as this is this order controller is not specific for any kind of page. It's relate to the whole app. So in that kind of situation, we use GetX, GetX service actually. In a lot of time, you don't need this, but if you have this, actually it's better, and it's not bound to any kind of page. whatever you do with GetX, that's mostly refers to a certain page and controller together. Okay, so here, and at the same time, we also need to set up our actually routes. I mean the endpoint. Actually, I should have done it first. So here I'll come over here, and so here everything, this one is for config, right? And here we'll do everything for orders. Okay, so here we do static const string, and we'll call it place order URI, place order URI. Here we do API v1 customer order place. Okay, all right, so this is the endpoint, and we'll look at the back end later. Okay, so this is a controller. Now controller also needs our repo, so we will create a repo over here inside this data class. So here we'll create a repo, and we'll call it order repo.dart. Okay, so it would be a simple class. Okay, we don't need you. So here the order repo, yeah, just like this, and order repo. So here we'll have this one, and it should have access to API client. Require this API client. Okay, and of course we need to declare it, final API client, okay, all right. What else? And over here we'll have a method, and we'll call it place order. Okay, so here our method will have place order, and we need GetX, so let's import GetX over here. Do we need GetX actually? Yes, we need GetX. So here we'll just simply return we'll call it place order, and here we'll just simply call API client dot get data. So now here we'll pass our URI. So here we'll call app const, and we'll call it place order URI, place order URI, this one. And actually we also need to pass order body. That would be a model, because as we pass information, we need to pass the whole order information, like how many items, the price, users information, the time, and the address detail, and everything, right? So for this reason, we also need to actually build a model. But anyway, so here let me finish this future. Okay, so here the type is response. Okay, and we'll just simply do return await. Okay, all right, and let's see. Okay, we need I think async over here. Okay, right, so this is our repo, yeah, and we have GetX only for this response method, otherwise we didn't need it. Okay, great, so we are done with the repo for now, and so over here we'll call this method, which is called place order. Okay, but of course first we need to build our own method, and here we'll do a bool variable, and we'll call it is loading. Okay, the default value is false. Now bool get is loading, so is loading. All right, now let's see what's going on here. Make it final. No, we don't want to make it final because we want to change it in future. Anyway, so here we would do a new method, and method type would be future, but it won't return anything. It's future because we are talking to the server and it might take a time to get it done, so that's why we call it future. Okay, so place order. Now let's see what's going on. Okay, we also need async here. Now as soon as we hit this method, it would call this function over here, which is coming from repo, right? So here we should have as well as access to the repo. Or to have access to the repo, actually we need a constructor for this class. So here we'll copy this one, and here we'll put required this dot order repo. Okay, so we'll copy this one once again, and here we would put order repo. All right, okay, so now we'll have access to the methods or properties of order repo. So now here we would do order repo dot place order like this. Okay, now we'll get the response and put it in a response variable, response. Okay, now here we need await. Okay, now the error is gone. Now here, of course, we are going to check the status code. The response dot status code over here. So if it's a 200, okay, so here we do is loading equal false. That means it's been done, right? But here that also means that when we first hit this method, call it from our view or from somewhere else, so we need to start loading, right? So here we'd say is loading equal true. But when you hit 200, that means we get a response back from server, so we set it to false. All right, I think by this time you already know it. Okay, so now here we'll get a response. So let's response dot message. Well, that should be inside the body actually. Response dot body dot response body. Response dot body. Okay, message. So our response would send a message to us, and we'll save it in a variable, string variable. At the same time, our response should send us order ID. So here we do response dot body order ID. Then make sure we convert it to string. Okay, so these are the two things we expect server to send us, and then we save them in this kind of variable. Okay, all right. Now, what I'm trying to say over here, if this works, like we get 200, that means that we can go ahead and call this button or this web view, okay, because the order has been placed, right? So everything is working as we expected. So now the time to show this payment button. So this is the PayPal payment button, right? Okay, now how that should work? That's the question. Once again, so definitely we're not going to call it like this, okay? So what we'll do from here, we'll call this method, okay, place order. We'll call this method from here, okay? Now, after that, this method, if it gets 200, actually it should trigger this button. Now this is called callback. So once this method is successful I mean 200, so we should trigger a callback function, okay? And we have to trigger it from here using, and we have to provide some information. Now the callback function actually would be sent from here, and once we get 200, or even it doesn't matter, it any kind of status code, so we'll send back a response to the callback function, and that would get triggered from our UI. Okay, all right. So I know this part is a bit complicated to grasp, but I'm trying my best. So listen again. So what we'll do, we'll call it from here. Okay, just let me give you an example that how we are going to do it. So here we do get.find, and here we'll have order controller order controller, and then we do place order, right? So as we do it, we'll send a parameter which is called callback. Okay, now actually this is a function that we are passing, so we'll pass this function to this one. Okay, and you already see we have an error because it wants us to pass it. Okay, so here, of course, one thing is that we don't have this callback variable here as a function, so we need to create that one. And once we create this, we'll send it to this function over here, and whatever response we get, based on that response, we will send back some parameter to that callback function. Okay, so hopefully it makes sense. So as we do it more, you definitely understand it more. So anyway, I'll remove this one first. So that means that we have to create a callback function first. So that's what we'll do. Okay, now here we would create a function and we'll call it callback. It doesn't matter, you can call it anything, bool, and because these are the parameters that we need and we need to work with them. So here we'll have string message and another string order ID. Okay, and we just simply do order ID. Okay, so here we'll check if is success. We need, okay, all right, so we'll just copy this one. All right, so if success is true, hopefully that means that everything went well. Okay, so in that case we would do one thing, otherwise we would do another thing. Okay, yeah, so things like that. So here, if success is not true, definitely we can send a message to the user. Okay, so here we'll send message using show custom snack bar using, and we'll just simply pass this message. Okay, so if things went okay, now here actually we'll trigger this one from here. Okay, all right, so now what do you need to do here? Here we need to pass this callback. Okay, and as we pass, let's see, so we will just pass this one, I guess we could, and let's come to this one over here, and here we could do function callback. Function callback. Okay, and the error is gone. Okay, so what is happening here? Let me tell you one more time. So as we fall back to this condition, then this method would get triggered, and in this method we are sending a function we are sending a function, and we are sending this function. Okay, now as we are sending the function over here, we don't need to pass anything. Maybe you can, but in this case we are not passing anything because we expect something back. Okay, and that's why we are not also doing this brackets. If you do that, you have to pass the parameters or the arguments. So here, so now this function would come here and sit inside this function because we are sending it here, right? So now this function, this one over here, this one refers to this function. Okay, all right, so now it refers. So now here I can, whatever I get here, I can send information back to that function. Okay, so how do you do that? It's pretty simple. So here we'll call callback, and the first parameter was Boolean, if you remember. So we are sending true. It means everything went successfully, and then we can send a message. So what message we can do? I think this one, string. Instead of string, you want to have message over here. Okay, so the message from the server, of course that's a positive message that everything went well, but we'll set up that later. And as well as you can send order ID. Okay, so the benefit of doing like this is that you don't have to change pages going here, there. Okay, so one page, but it has a callback function. So as when you are here, everything is a lot of things are happening, but under the hood. Okay, so now because I'm sending back some information, and this function will use this information and do rest of the thing. Okay, so that's why we use a callback function. So the callback function we use when you want to trigger something after something happened first. So first we are placing an order over here in our database, and if we get some response back, we give this information back to our earlier page over here. Okay, now this page can get this information and do the rest of the things like that. Okay, so hopefully it makes sense. And what happens if we don't get 200? Okay, so we'll copy this fallback function. Now we'll put it here, and then here we'll put false. Okay, now the message, let's see the message. We are not going to send that one. Here we would send a response status text. Okay, all right. Now order ID, we don't need that. Everything went wrong, so we can just send -1. -1 means this is not a valid number, definitely not an order number, right? Okay, so everything works well. We send a good callback function. Things went wrong, we would use bad callback function using this false. Okay, so now from here we'll decide where to go. Should we go to a payment page, or should we show customer information? Okay, a custom information to our user. So that's what we are talking. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. All right, now this over here, actually we are almost ready, I would say, but now one thing is missing. Everything is working as we wanted, but here you see I'm just sending callback function to it, but I also need to send order information. Okay, now that information should be encapsulated inside a model, so we need to create that model. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the model. And to do that, first we'll get over here, and once again here we'll do place order model, place order. Well, now once again we would be quick. So for this model, so here we are, we have the model, and we'll copy this one and everything here. So, and we'd go back to our Dart class. We need to import it. I think it is a cart model instead of cart item, and change it. Okay, so here we are sending order amount, order note, distance, address, latitude, longitude, and things like that. But these few fields like distance, note, and this we are not going to use now. In future part of the tutorial we'll cover these things. Okay, so let's just change them quickly. Yeah, there is gone. So with this we are done with the model itself. Okay, so now we can come back to our cart page over here. So what we need to do, we need to remove this, and okay, so here we want to send another information. Okay, so here we want to send this model. So but now we need to encapsulate all this information. Okay, so here before we go ahead, and we need to look at the order model one more time. Place order model, sorry, I think I just closed it. So this one. So see, we need to send card information and user information. Okay, and address. Okay, so things like that. So we need to access our location controller, user controller, and cart model. Okay, which also means that cart controller, actually not cart model. So the information would be model, but the information would come from cart controller. So here first we'll get information about our location for the user's location. So here we do var location, and here we do get.find, and location user controller. I think it should we can get it from location controller, actually location controller, and then get the user address. Okay, now you see that with get address, this one, so here we'd save a lot of information. What do we get from here? We'll save it this one, and then we can access this variable, okay, which we'll do very soon. But with this, everything we put inside this location variable now. And we can also do cart here. So here we do cart and get.find, and here we do cart controller, and here get items. Okay, now if you click on this one, say get items, this one, it gives you everything in the cart but as a list. Okay, so with this we are done with these two sections. And what else? We also need some user information. Let's see how we get them. Okay, so we can get them directly inside the place order model. So here let's create an object of location order controller. Now this is our order controller. We already have it actually, so we don't need. This is the order, and now so we can create an object of actually place order body, this one. Now place order body is coming from here, this one, right? Okay, so here, and we need to import it. We do have a lot of required arguments, so we'll do that. Place order body, here we do place order. Okay, now some of the arguments are required, so we need to fill them in, otherwise we'll get error. So here, what do you want first? So here we want cart, okay, because do remember we need here cart, so that's the one that we are doing, right? Sending it to cart. And next one is order amount. So okay, for now the order amount just say 100, doesn't matter, a fixed one. And order note, let's do order note about the food. Okay, what else we could send? We need to send address. Now for address, we can get it from location variable. So here we do location.address. Okay, and we could send latitude, location.latitude, location.longitude. Okay, all right. And we also need contact person name. Now that should come from our location control user controller actually. Now let's see, do we have any user controller over here? We can do a quick search actually. User controller. No, we don't have. Okay, so if we don't have, it doesn't matter, we can get it like this. Okay, so get.find user controller, okay, and here we could do user model. Okay, so what we would do, we'll just cut this one and we'll put it here, and we'll call it user. Okay, all right, so now inside this we would do user dot I think we could do user.fname. Do we have user.fname? Well, here we have name actually, and let's see. So we'd confirm that most probably this one should work. Okay, we'll see. Contact. It should be number actually, right? So it should be phone number, and the contact person name, user name. Okay, all right, and what else? I think one more, schedule that. So this one, we don't send any information. It could be empty because we can ignore that. I can also ignore this one. And with this, the error is gone. Okay. Oops. Okay, so it wants you to put something like double. Okay, just put a random number, double. Okay, so now this place order, we want to send it to this one. Okay. Now, of course, this would get cranky because we didn't send anything like that. So here we need to send place order. Okay, all right. So now if we come back and see, the error is gone. Okay, so place order. So this is the object that encapsulates all the information about our order, but of course some of them are fixed for now. We'll do that slowly as we go because otherwise it get very complicated, and I think it's already very complicated because we have been working like few hours for this payment, but it looks like it's never ending. But anyway, so now we'll get over here. But of course, it's not the end of the story. So here we need to send this place order because we need to send it to the server, right? So we do that. But now this would get cranky because it says, oh, what are you sending me? I don't know this thing. Then here you need to grab this and do place order, okay? Oops, place order. Okay, now here you need to send a place order one more time to the server. Now we know that to the server we can't send an object. Only thing we can send is called place order. I think let's call it place order. Only thing we can send to server is called JSON information, right? So to JSON. Let's see what's going on. Too many position. Oops, it should be post method rather than get method. Okay, all right, because we are posting information to the server, so we can submit. Okay, great. So with this here we are sending the URI as well as this JSON data. Right now this JSON is actually there, right? Because just now we created this one, copied it, but now this idea is pretty much like the models that we built before, so I'm not going to explain this thing step by step. So I think you should get the idea. So here we are done. So what's happening one more time? So I'm getting all this information about my order, and then I send the order to the server, and at the same time to the controller we send the what is it? We send this. Okay, let me find it. Send the callback. So, and callback waits for more information from the server, and then we decide what's happening. Okay, all right. So next we'll take a look at the backend code. Okay, so here's our backend code, and here's our route, and this is the route I'm talking about. Okay, all right, this one. Okay, so I think you don't have this one. If you don't have this one, just go ahead and put a new route group right below this address group. Okay, so right below this address group, put a new route. Okay, and here the prefix is order, and it's a post method. So that place, this one, actually we have this endpoint place, right? Order place. Anyway, so and then it looks for a method in order controller. The method is place order. Now this method itself is quite long method. Okay, place order. So every information is given to this request object, and we want to see this validation over here. See where the required fields are there, and we check them. And here, given all the information that we get from request object, actually we try to make a array. Okay, all right, or also like a map. As you see, as I said earlier, in PHP the map is using this one. Okay, so we do also do some check over here using this ternary operator. If the contact person name doesn't exist, so we take it from more like a database. Okay, take it from database, as you can see. Okay, if the contact person name doesn't exist, and the same for phone number and address and longitude and latitude. And then first we say the total price is 0. Okay, all right. Now here the order amount, what do? We create an object from our table, which is order table we created very early at the beginning of this tutorial, and then we generate an order ID, and we also save the user ID. And over here total amount, because the one we send, actually we send it over here. Let's take a look. So this one, total amount, order amount. Okay, all right, but this will change anyway. So let's back to this one, and order note, address is decoded and saved in the server, and we generate a random number, as well as for future reference this one, and the status is pending, and the current time actually when it came, and when the order has been created, things like that. And now the cart itself is very interesting. So here in your cart you might have several items, so that's why we loop through it actually. Okay, so this is the for loop, so we get it and loop through, and each of the items could be found in C. Okay, and we also check if the item could be found in the database. If it's found, then we go through it. Otherwise, product not found is returned. Okay, if we find it, we get its price, okay, from the server. So we'll ignore this one, the one actually we had early. Okay, and we see how many quantity came in, and we also want to get the product detail. And this text is for now hard-coded, but it should be changed in future from backend. Okay, and we get the total price. Okay, so in future tutorial, actually order amount will remove, it doesn't matter. And if we don't remove, we can do the calculation on the front end as well. Okay, anyway, but in the back end, the actual on the back end, the amount would be based on the product's price. Okay, as you can see over here, and we put all this detail in this order detail variable. Okay, all right, and then we want to save the order, and before saving the order, we get the order ID. Okay, do remember order ID has been generated randomly. It's more like a transaction ID actually, not really order ID, it's more like a transaction ID. Anyway, so we save it in a new variable, product price in a new variable. Okay, and order amount, things like that, and we save it in the database. Okay, because order is the object that we created from our order table. Okay, all right, and so we save it, and let's see. Now here we also created a order details table. Do you remember that? Because each order may have many products. Okay, so each product will have their own ID, as well as for all the products they will have same order ID. So that's what we are doing here. Okay, so whatever the order ID was, this one, we save it for each row in the database. Okay, all right, and then we insert it in the database. Okay, as you can see here, we also have one more insert. Okay, and after that to the server we return order ID, to the app, and the total amount. Okay, and 200. So this is the message that would be used over here, which I showed you earlier. So let me find it here. Okay, and the order ID. Okay, so these two things are quite important. So order ID and message. Okay, all right, so these are the things that we want, but actually we should also return this one. We'll change it. Okay, I don't want to move the code right now, but you get the idea. Okay, so you can return more information anyway. So yes, so you return 200, If things go wrong, we try to check, and always check for failure. Okay, so that's what it does basically over here. It may look like scary, but it does a lot of thing over here. So most important part is it goes through every product in a loop and put it in a new map. Okay, so that we'll have order details, and if we have order details in the database, we'll have those records for each of the products for one order. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, now I think you don't have this. If you don't have this, you have to type it in slowly. Okay, so just go ahead and do that. Take your time and do it. So if you get error, just let me know in the comment section. Okay, so it ends here. All right, so now we shall go back to our front end, which is Flutter. Okay, so yes, so we are almost done, and it would be done very soon. So here we create the order and send it to the backend, right? So backend will give us information back to this callback function. Now, if everything went smoothly, we go to the payment page. Okay, now of course over here, instead of using this one, we'll use order ID. Okay, all right, now the user ID is we got it, so it doesn't really matter. We can get it from this model because the user is alive in the app. Okay, so we will go to payment page, and payment page would take us to this this page. Actually, payment route would take us to this one, and if things are good, then we'll check can redirect whether it's true or false. Okay, but at the beginning we'll start it as a true, and if we are successful, then we'll set it to false. Otherwise we'd keep trying it as we redirect. Okay, all right, and now these are the response that we get back from PayPal, and it has to also do with the success and fail keywords, the one we set up early in our web app, like as you can see here, success and fail. Okay, so now this response, the string URL is coming from actually webview, because webview here talks with the PayPal SDK. I mean, eventually we go to PayPal SDK and it sends a response back. Okay, all right, and everything starts from the beginning. So it would get started, and I mean it would be the progress, and we get response back from the server immediately when everything starts, and when everything finishes we also get a response. The response is got on this on page finished. Okay, so each time we have this URL, like as you can see, URL, so we can get that URL and analyze what's happening. If from the server we get success, then it means for PayPal everything went smoothly. Okay, all right, now here we need to set this two routes, actually one route, but they take parameters. So we'll come to our route helper class and just simply go ahead and set it up. So let's go to route helper over here. But now at the earlier at the top we have this order success. And we also did a method order success page. Okay, so this one. Now here actually we want to send more information back. Okay, so here we'll have our, let's see, what are the information that we want to send. Order success payment page. Constants, we don't need that. Repo, we don't need that. Order card controller, we don't need that. We don't need any of this. Yeah, payment page. So we want to send a bool and a string, right? So let's come over here. Here we do string. What do we want to send? We are sending user ID most probably. Sorry, it's order ID, not user ID. And let's come to this place over here, and here we want to call it order ID, and here we will send a bool, or maybe we can also send string is better. We'll call it status. Now here ID equal order ID, and status equal status. So this is what we have. Now let's come over here, and inside this actually we want to send some information. So what you want to send first, you want to send the ID, so we'd send order ID, and that should be our get.parameters and ID. Okay, great. And we'll also send status get.parameters over here, and status dot to string. And this, okay, yeah, so we need to convert it to int, because over here this page actually we are taking int, right? So but we have over here this is string, so we want to convert it. Okay, but first we will see, we'll try to see that if we can see some information within it. Okay, so if it contains success, then we'll send 1, otherwise we'll send 0. So now it becomes integer. Okay, because this page would be called from payment page over here. Okay, so we are sending success or fail. Okay, so actually we are sending them as a string. So let's get order, let's see, what was the name again? The name was get order success page. So get order success page. Okay, so here we are sending order ID and a string, actually not bool, so that confused me over there as well. So, and now because we are sending this information back to here, and we check it's success information or false information. Okay, and based on that we send 1 or 0 to this order success page. And over here we do have some default information. Okay, so this is a column that has image. Inside our asset folder we have these images, and sized box. After that, if status was okay, you will see that order placed successfully, otherwise it failed the order. Padding, height box, size box, padding, and over here once again, so we'll show you basically two kind of information. One is successful order that you placed it, it's like congratulations, and then we also say order success. All right, and after that we'll go back to home page. Okay, all right, so now if this thing has to work, we need to do one more thing, and most probably this is the last thing we are going to do. We need to inject them in our dependencies. So we'll find it over here, and right after this location repo we do get.lazy put. Here we do order repo and API client get.find. Okay, and we should be good. After that, we'll also have get.lazy put and order controller. And here we'll do get.find as well. Okay, all right, perfect. So let's go ahead and run our app and see what's going on and whether we have an error or not. Well, we do have a warning, but let's see if we can hit our endpoint or not. So here we are, and we have this address ready. Make sure that you have your address. Okay. Oops, I need to work on this button as well. We should have taken care of this one long ago, but if you can do it on your own, that's great. If not, I'll cover in future tutorials. Okay, all right. So everything is there. So let's place an order. Okay, we already have 2 over here, and let's check it out. Okay, so it's loading. Okay, well, don't worry, because it's just a conditional check. It doesn't always get success because it waits, and if its waiting time is a bit longer, then it says encounter problem, but you can skip that part. Now let's hit this button. So our web page is loading, as you can see over here. So yes, great, wonderful, congratulations. And this is where you actually do accept information, and this is where you type in your personal test ID, okay, the one you got from PayPal. Okay, so here I would do the one I did before, okay, and then I will click next. Okay, now it means it found my sandbox ID, so it should be sandbox ID personal email. Okay, please check the video that I showed you earlier. Now here I'll type in my password and I'll try to log in. Okay, it's loading. So looks like it's working, and perfect. Okay, perfect. Yeah, congratulations if you have made it so far. So let's go ahead and pay with PayPal. Yes. So it's still loading because waiting for response back. We need to work on this one, but yes, it showed you that your order placed successfully. We also need to work on this one. Okay, go back to hometown. Perfect. So now we see that here we have an ID of 10,000. I think that's 100,009. So what we'd be able to see, we'd be able to see that in the backend we have this user ID 27, and for that user we have a new order. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the backend. So here I do see this is a record, and you can ignore this record. It doesn't matter. So this is the thing that I did just now. Okay, user ID 27 and order ID this one, and it was 66, remember. Okay, so yes, so that's how you go ahead and work with payment in Flutter SDK. Well, I will see you in next part of this tutorial. Thank you.